And we're live. Hi, everyone. Happy Saturday night, wherever in the world you are joining me. I'm so glad you're here live. I love the idea that, we can kind of all be here together, even though we're everywhere else in the world but here, but I feel like we're here. So, anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for taking time out of your weekend. And yeah, I love being here. I got a lot of questions from you. You sent me a lot of them. I'm going to try and get to as many as I possibly can in the time we've got. But I love answering your questions, and I appreciate your writing into me and telling me your stories and pouring out your hearts in some cases. And yeah, so I like to try to get to as many as I can. All right. Where are we here from? Where is everyone in the world tonight? If you want to type in the chat where you are, I love finding out where we're reaching tonight. I know it's 6 o'clock on the West Coast, and on the East Coast we're in 3 hours. You're at 9 o'clock. Yeah, Lee's here from New Jersey. 9 o'clock there. Hi, Lee. It's nice to see you. Are you seeing me? I feel like I see you. I feel like I get a feel for you guys. So, and Alex is from Mississippi. Nice to see you, Alex. This is when I test my geography, make sure I have the right abbreviations for every state. I grew up in Canada, so don't hold me to it if I mess up. There's a couple of is it the Massachusetts and Maryland? And anyway, there's one of those that trips me up sometimes. And from Pennsylvania, Joanna, that's where my husband's from. He's from Pennsylvania. We met in California. That's where he's from, and I've been up there. I've been out there. His sister got married, and so I had a chance to go out there. With him out there. So nice to see you, and anyone else joining us, feel free to say where you're from, where you're joining us today, and thanks for being here. All right. Well, I'm going to start because, as you know, I like to answer as many as we've got here, and so let's jump right in. The first question I've got tonight, because I jump around a little bit here. Okay, I think I've answered something like this before, but the one I've got here tonight is from, and I may not be pronouncing your name right. I think it's Garit. So Garit, hi Garit, wherever you are, wherever you're joining us from. And you may get this on the replay too. So that's fine. I know a lot of you are sleeping right now somewhere in the world. So that's fine too. If you get this on the replay, you'll get it. You'll get your answer then. So Garit wrote in to tell me about a guy. She said to me, if a guy has a best friend and she's a girl and they had a previous relationship, and now he says there's nothing going on and they're just friends, why hasn't he introduced her to me? And we've never talked about our relationship. We're in a long distance. We live about 2.5 hours away, and we've been seeing each other since September. Okay, so let me get this straight, Garit. So your guy, you've been seeing each other September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Okay, so you're about just coming into 7 months, right? Okay, so you've got some time in there. It's long distance though, so you may not have been seeing each other that much. I'm not sure. But it sounds like, so you're concerned that he hasn't introduced this best friend who happens to be a girl and someone who he was in a previous relationship with. So this is an ex. This is an ex that he is still telling you they're just friends, but you're just a little wary because he's still obviously keeping in touch with her. and you don't like it, right? He hasn't introduced the two of you, so you're feeling a little bit insecure, and for good reason, because this is someone who was his ex before. They were together, they were involved, and so you have a valid concern. First of all, I want to validate that. It is, you have a valid concern about this 7 months into your relationship, and you've never met her, and she probably, you're concerned she doesn't know about you. There's all kinds of questions I have in here for you. So I'm going to give you my answer based on what you've given me with a couple scenarios. So the part about the long distance. So if you're 2.5 hours away, the thing with that is emotionally unavailable men really love long distance relationships. It's a really easy way for them to never have to divulge more of their lives than they want to. It's a really good way for them not to have to be too committed to you. It allows them to keep some of their life private and not have to be as close. It allows them natural distance. So anytime that there is a long distance component to your relationship, it's going to take more effort on both your parts to make this work, because you have to be able to live with the distance. You have to be okay with not seeing each other as easily or as readily. You have to be okay with not having your worlds as combined, because the reality is, even if it's 2.5 hours away, that's still something you have to plan around. I mean, it's not like halfway around the country. We're going to get to a question about that next, where they're in different countries, but at the same time, it is still 2.5 hours away, and that is a significant amount of distance there. So if you and he are both not on the same page in terms of recognizing the difficulties posed by just being 2.5 hours away from each other, then that is going to be probably problematic, because how can it not be if you are feeling insecure, you're feeling like you haven't met his friends, specifically her, and he can always say, well, we live in different cities, it's 2.5 hours away, you're not going to see her because you're not, she's not right there. You're not seeing her because we're not close by. I mean, he can always have that excuse. It may be absolutely nothing. It may just be that he wants to keep in touch with her. He likes her. He's her best. Maybe they were best friends before, and then they became attached and involved, and they became more than just friends. And so now, when that didn't work out, they've gone back to just being friends. But what I say is, the reason why he hasn't introduced her to me, what I'm more concerned about, why can't you ask him this? Why can't I'm assuming you don't want to appear needy or clingy or insecure. I'm assuming that's why you haven't asked him directly. But I think it's worth saying to him, because obviously, I mean, you're concerned enough about this. You're writing about this to me, and you're asking about this. Obviously, this is something you are concerned about. So I think it's worth saying to him, I've never met this best friend of yours who also happens to be your ex. And so I would feel, I'd like to meet her. I know it would make me feel better to know who this person is in your life, who is obviously significant enough to you. That you were in a relationship before me. So I would ask him, and I would say, I would ask him first if I would let him know you'd like to meet her. I wouldn't right away put him on the hot spot and say, why haven't you introduced me to her? I would say instead, because maybe it hasn't occurred to him. Maybe he assumes that women can be weird with each other. Maybe we don't know that piece. So I would just say to him, hey, I've never met your ex or your best friend or whatever you're comfortable saying. It's the same thing. I've never met her. Sounds like she was someone, significant to you. I'd love to meet her. Just say that. Keep it simple, and don't get into any long, complicated things. Just say that. If he says to you, if he basically tells you he's not that keen on that. He doesn't really want the two of you to meet, or if he just skirts the whole thing and just tries to change the subject, or if his response is not following through to yeah, let's yeah, you can meet her. It hasn't worked out, but if you'd like to, you can meet her. And then I would say, okay, well, let's set it up. You take the initiative and you let him know what you want. You let him know what you need here and tell him that, because if you can't, see, here's the thing about this. If you can't talk to him about something like this is going to build. The resentment is going to build. Your insecurity about this is going to build. You are going to feel insecure, and you're going to feel resentful, and you're going to feel a big should here that he should want to introduce you to her if there isn't a problem, if this isn't something of significance to him. So for you to be direct, even if you're not that comfortable being direct and being honest with him, and maybe you're going to feel like you're showing that you're insecure or something. But I think it's more important for you to let him know how you feel than let this fester underneath and just become an issue and build the resentment to where one day you blow up at him. Because I see this all the time, where you think it's something little, and you don't say anything, and yet at some point something sets you off and you blow up about it, and you're upset about something that has nothing to do with something else, or it's building because this has been something that's been on your mind. So eliminate all of that by just talking to him about this and just saying, hey, I'd like to meet her. Not the accusatory, why haven't you introduced me to your best friend? That doesn't come across well at all. You then end up, you lose credibility when you come right out the gate accusing him. But instead, if you say, why haven't you introduced her to me? Don't say that. Instead, if you say, I'd really like to meet your best friend. I'd really like to meet her. She sounds like someone significant to you, and so I should probably meet her. I'd like to. And then if he doesn't follow through with it, then you follow up with, hey, remember we talked about meeting her? Let's set that up. Let's prioritize that. And then you make the plan to do that. Like, find out next time you're going to be visiting him, because I'm assuming you've been together 7 months, or you've been seeing each other. You're actually seeing each other somewhere in person, right? And so you set it up next time you're going to be where she lives, which I'm assuming is where she is, over there where he is. Say something to set it up, because that makes the most sense. Have it come from you. It's your priority. If you get a response from him that he's not interested, if he's telling you, if he pushes back, or when you want to prioritize it and he says no, or says something to that effect, then you can say, oh, why not? Why not? I'd like to. I'd feel more comfortable meeting someone who's that significant in your life, who happens to be a female too, who happens to be your ex. I mean, those are reasonable things, but you can say them before you get to where they're just dripping with like a sarcasm, or just, when there is such emotion behind them. I would just not wait till it comes to that. I would early on address this by actually saying how you feel before it gets to that point. And it's totally reasonable that you would want to meet an ex-girlfriend who is still his best friend. Okay? Totally reasonable. So I hope that answers that one for you. You're in the right here. There is no right or wrong here. This is how you feel. And if someone is not understanding of that, that's a bigger problem. So that's my point with this. That's a bigger problem if he needs more from you and doesn't agree and do this with you. All right. Hello, Gwen from Colorado, and S from Ohio, I'm assuming. Nice to meet you too, unless that's somewhere else in the world, but hello to both of you. Welcome. All right. So I'm answering your questions tonight, and that was Garit, I think her name is. So I hope that helped you. And anyone else who's going through that, who has an ex, or who has a guy who has an ex that you haven't met, or who has someone significant, a friend, a best friend, no less, who is a female who you haven't met, You have to let them know. You cannot expect them to read your mind, and you can't be so concerned about whether or not you're going to come across as insecure for them to not answer, not know that this is something that's important to you, that you need to know. So it's really important that you remember that, because if you don't say anything, the resentment about that builds, or the concerns you have, or the questions around that build, and that's not good. Okay, so don't do that. Hi, Janine, as well, from Australia. Janine, I'll be getting to your questions soon too. I got you in here, so nice to see you too, from Australia. Okay, so the next one I'm going to answer is from Anne, and Anne raises a question here that is really a good one. I've got two Anns, so hold on if you're an Ann, because I've got two Anns on here I'm going to be answering. Actually, I may have three. We'll see. But I've got I've got an Ann here, and Anne writes, Jane, my question is probably a bit different from most of your readers because I followed your program and it works. Yay! I'm actually in a committed relationship now, but I miss the butterflies and excitement of dating. Okay, so you're in the committed relationship, which is awesome. I'm so glad you follow my program. I'm so glad that it works. She's talking about my beautiful Confident Radiant You program, where it's either a 4-week one where you get a coaching session with me at the end, or she's talking about it's the bite-sized version of that, which amazingly, this little weekly Love Steps program I have has been, you're not the only one. I have been hearing this more regularly. This is just a little program in little bite sizes from the bigger one. And it is amazing how many women have written to me about that and told me they've met their guy over this. So either one, they're great. When you get to meet me, and when you can write to me and tell me how you met your guy. So anyway, I'll put the links in there too, so you can see those. So she is, you've got the committed relationship that you wanted. So that's awesome, because I know that was really the key thing that you were looking for. So that's great. But you miss the butterflies, and you miss the excitement, the rush, all of that. Yeah. This living with someone is pleasant and safe and has some lovely moments. But I thought it would feel more somehow, though. Is that just not how it works? Or am I doing something wrong? Oh, Anne. Okay, Anne, I am so glad you asked this. I was actually really excited when I got your question, because you have basically covered probably about 100 emails that I get regularly from women, 100 women who have been who ask the same thing, because this comes up a lot. Like, do I have to settle for something boring? Do I have to settle for something instead of what I actually want? Or do I have the right person if I'm not feeling total butterflies and excitement that I had during the dating stage? Okay, so I want to clarify this, because this is, again, it's just, no one clarifies this for us. Okay, we're basically sold on this programming where you meet someone, there's all the fireworks, there's all the sparks, there's everything amazing. And then all it takes is finding the right person where you have all of that. And then you're going to get married, you're going to live happily ever after, and you're going to have all of those sparks still. And it's going to be so amazing. And that's going to be your measure that you are with the right person for you. You're with your soulmate. You're with your perfect match if you feel all that. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you something about that, because if that is what you were to experience after you were married, if you still had that continuously at the same level as you had beforehand, it won't be long before the two of you are either divorced, or before broken up, or he's cheating on you. Okay? Because the reality is, you can be so in love with someone, and there can be so many sparks, and there can be everything so amazing. Okay. All the dopamine hits. I'm going to talk about that more too in a minute, because that's key. So all of the stuff that you have been told is a part of the fireworks, the excitement of being with the perfect person for you, right? You've been looking your whole life for someone to be like this with you. And the problem is that conditioning, that programming runs so deep that you are going to believe that unless you have that, there's something wrong. And so after you've got that commitment, and after you've got that, after, you had all the sparks and it was all amazing and it was great and everything, and now it's just tampered down to where it is more just it's nice, right? It's safe, it's secure, it's fun. You've got your person and you've got that relationship. You're in this committed relationship, and it's like, okay, is there more? Is there more? What happened to all the excitement? What happened to all the sparks flying with the dating, the chemistry, that all of those feelings? Okay. So the reality is that love progresses through different stages. And when you are in that first stage of the dating and the adrenaline rushes and all the dopamine hits and everything else, because that's all when the neurotransmitters are going off in your brain and everything's so exciting because it's new. You don't know this person and you're getting to know them. And there's always the threat of, oh, what if they leave me? What if I don't really know them well enough to ask them everything, right? So you can't know everything. And so it's this feeling of being kind of kept on the edge, and it's exciting there, right? Dating is exciting if you're dating people who are exciting people to be with, right? If your experience with dating is that you kind of, you like someone and you never know kind of where you stand with them, or you never really kind of know for sure if they're going to commit to you, that is really exciting. And our brain, all those dopamine receptors, they light up because it is so exciting every single time someone reciprocates. Every time you feel really good about being with someone and they feel really good back with you and everything lights up well, it's awesome. So what do you do? What do you do when that shifts into the next phase of love, where now it's more real, right? You got the safety, you've got the security. It's like you said, it's pleasant, it's safe. It's got those moments when it's exciting, but for the most part, it is pretty much every day, right? You have your everyday lives, you go to work, you do your grocery shopping, you have whatever else goes on. If there's kids or pets or anything else, you have your everyday stuff. All of a sudden, you've got this person who is just a regular real life person, and you're kind of just a regular real life person together. And there's this panic mode of, is this all there is? Okay. So this is the reality, that no matter how much chemistry there was, you will settle into more of a pattern, more of a habitual everyday life. And that is so healthy. That's actually the hallmark of a healthy relationship. There will still be great sex. There will still be great intimate moments. There will still be laughter and fun and all the things and flirting and that banter and that playing around. There will still be all that, as long as the two of you keep that alive and make that a priority. There will still be that, but it is never supposed to be like the beginning, when you don't know each other and when everything is about, will this person want me? Will this person, am I going to be good enough? Right? I mean, that's what goes on in our minds. Am I going to be good enough? Or am I sexy enough? Am I attractive enough? Are they, oh, they look, are they attractive to me? And I love when, I see them, and, all these different things that go on. That is dating. And that is the physical attraction. That's the getting to know each other stages. That is not real love. That is more of the, that's the beginning. That is the physical attraction stage. That is where you're measuring whether or not there's enough to go to the next stage of getting to know them better. And then the next stage after that, and the next stage after that. So it is totally normal to feel the way you're feeling when we come from a society where we are conditioned to believe that you meet one person and they are your everything, and they fill every possible need that you could possibly have, and they're just this ongoing excitement train, and they constantly deliver and they constantly give you the best of themselves, and it's always exciting and it's always fun, and they're perfect, or not, perfect technically, but they're always what you married or what you partnered up with, what you committed to, and who they showed you, and so they're consistent, like all of this stuff. Um, they are not supposed to be everything. If you base your life and your relationship on this one person being everything, you will be so disappointed, because the reality is this person is still the person you met, but they're also allowed to settle into a comfortable place, because now the two of you do not constantly have to make sure that you're trying to win the other over, and you don't have to make sure that you're making sure that everything is just that they still want you and they still like you and are still as attracted to you, because you're here, you're together, you know this, you look around and it's like, well, you're living in the same place, you're doing the same things with each other. When you need a partner, when you need someone to do something with, when you want to go do something fun, when you want to go to a restaurant or go for a night out, you're choosing each other. So there is just this reality check that if it's healthy, you're comfortable. You're not meant to feel like you're still walking on eggshells. You're not meant to feel like you're still not sure about things. You need to have as much of a life apart from them as you do with them, because they're a big part of your life. But this idea that they're supposed to be everything is something that was sold to us in fairy tales, and it's conditioned to us in the way that we get all this messaging that just makes everything seem like this be all and end all thing. But nothing can compare to the dopamine rush that you're going to get in your brain. Nothing is going to light you up more than knowing that you may or may not be good enough for someone, that you may or may not be attractive enough for someone. And so you need to pull on all the shots and pour on all the charm to make sure you get that guy, right? I mean, that's what's sold to us. So that is what is going to light you up. When in reality, it is, if you have someone who has met your list, who has met the things that are the priority on your list of the qualities you're looking for, if you have already gone through this process so that you're saying this worked, and you have the perfect person for you, and you've got some doubts about whether or not you can replicate the dating stage, not to worry. Don't worry about that, because what that tells you is that you have got this right. Because if you were saying, I still feel like we're dating, and you guys are in a committed relationship, living together or married, whatever it is, I'd be concerned, because, like I said, that's the perfect setup for things to end at some point here, because you have to have someone who now is comfortable letting their hair down, who is comfortable being themselves, who is comfortable. I mean, that's the point of being in a secure, committed, loving relationship, so that you can let your hair down, so that you can relax, so that you can now be with each other. Now, I'm not talking about where both of you get lazy, and I'm not talking about where you stop giving to each other and contributing, and where you stop feeding the excitement with something there, and you stop making an effort, okay? And you let yourselves go, and you live like you're still two single people, where you don't have to be concerned at all about each other's feelings or what someone else might want, or keeping the spark alive. I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying that you need to have a level of comfort in your relationship where you've gone on and have something that does not just feel like dating again, because you're in something real with someone you can trust. And as a final thought on that, or question to ask yourself, if you couldn't trust this person you're with to know that they were with you and you were committed to each other, if instead it was just a matter of you feeling like you're back to dating, where you can't trust that they're not still in the dating phase, would you really want them if you couldn't have that trust? Because what you've got now is you've got a level of trust. And if you're not looking for that, then maybe it would be the need to reassess, like, am I looking for just the dating phase? Because that's something I talk to women about this all the time, because there's a lot of women who get so excited about the dating and they get excited about the adrenaline rushes. They get excited about the chemistry, they get excited about all that. And they're even more excited because they're with a guy who is so not available to them, either physically, mentally, or emotionally, that the excitement is just that much more exciting. And what I say to them is, okay, well, if you want this guy, like if it is so worth it to be with this guy, then think twice about whether or not you actually want a committed relationship, because you're not talking about him in the same sentence if it's a committed relationship you want. Because someone who is living for the moment, who is living for all of the excitement and everything, I mean, that's a guy who is not going to be in that committed relationship. So if you're more comfortable being there, then accept that about yourself, at least for now. And accept the fact that, okay, I still need more of my excitement. I need more of my dopamine hits. I love the high that I get, because that is really deep programming that most of us are addicted to or have been addicted to. I mean, that is addicting. There is a reason why it feels as addictive to be with a guy like that, to let go of someone like that. And I know I talk to you guys about that all the time on my calls. I mean, we talk about how it is akin to an addiction when you're with someone like that. And so you have to ask yourself, is that really what this is all about? Like, do I need this? Is this what love means to me? Because if it is, there's nothing wrong with accepting where you're at right now and admitting that for now, I need that dopamine more. I need that excitement. I need that feeling, that adrenaline rush more, because there's nothing worse than pretending that you are capable of a relationship that you're not capable of. And so if you are needing that, admit that, go have some fun and explore that, and then see where that leads you to, right? If after another dead end, this time though, recognizing the choice in this, because that's what's so important, recognizing your own power. And if you made the choice to be with someone who represents all of that excitement and all that to you, and you just simply need more information, you need to see it as information when the same thing happens again, and you end up here because you've chosen another guy who's full of all the excitement but nothing else, then because you chose it, because you're standing in your power, you're actually recognizing, I'm making a choice, not this always happens to me. There's nothing I can do about it. This just always happens. But because this time is different, this may be what it takes to get you to the other side, where you recognize, okay, this is attractive. It holds something for me. There is something there, that there is an appeal there that really appeals to me. But in the long run, I know that at some point I do want to settle down. I know that I want someone I want to be able to trust that someone is there for me and I'm there for them. I know I want that. And then you just have to look at, okay, so this, you had another go of that and you were able to try it out, and you were able to see with your eyes wide open this time where that leads. So which one do you want? Because when you can come to that place where you can choose it, everything is different. Where you no longer feel like you're the victim, where you can't where you're not capable of a committed, trusting relationship, then it changes everything. So when you can see that you can actually make a choice, and you get to choose, because I'll tell you this, men are choosing this all the time. You get to choose this too. Do you want the excitement, that addiction? I mean, it's addictive. It is. And if that is what you still need to get out of your system, it's far easier to get it out of your system with your eyes wide open, making it a choice, than to feel like you are so afraid that you have to be ashamed and embarrassed to admit that you're still going back there and you still enjoy that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Own it. If that's still where you are, then live in that moment and enjoy that. And no, yeah, I'm probably going to get hurt. I'm probably going to get my heart broken again. But do it with your head held high, because you're choosing it, not because it's going to be another, oh, this always happens to me, as if you're not choosing it either subconsciously before or not. But most of the time it is subconscious. It is a choice that you make subconsciously. This time, the only difference is you're going to choose it consciously, so that you can either get it out of your system and be done with it, or you're going to decide, okay, that pull is so strong. I have actually been lying to myself, or I haven't been facing reality that I like that. I like that. And if you like that, do it unapologetically. Like, don't ever apologize for choosing what you choose. Again, men do this all the time. Okay. And so you get to too. You get to decide what makes you happy. Just make sure it actually is what makes you happy. Okay? And maybe this is new to you to even be able to figure that out. But it's your choice and you get to decide that. But I'll tell you, I hear so many more happily ever after stories from women who have actually taken my advice and actually confronted the reality of this side of them, right? That maybe isn't done with that yet. Instead of listening to what they're supposed to do, but actually accepted where they were and actually chose to see for themselves, where do I want to be? Do I actually want that committed relationship? Is that actually what I want, whether it's marriage or living together or just knowing that you're exclusive with someone and you're committed without the ring and the paper and all that. So I mean, it is discovering for yourself, like, who am I in relation to this? Because maybe it's not that you only want what the culture says you're supposed to want. Maybe you want what you want, and maybe you've never asked yourself or gotten in touch with or given yourself permission to figure out what it is you actually want and what the appeal is. And that's how you're going to find it. That's how you're going to do it. So I hear from many more happily married or coupled up people who have actually done this, who have given themselves permission to figure out, what do I actually want? And then gone from there to either decide, okay, I'm never doing that again because it doesn't have the trust factor. And I'll never put myself through that again because it was so awful. And that excitement that I feel is not worth it. Or they reach a point where, okay, I don't know yet. I don't have enough information yet because this is new to me to actually be allowed to give myself permission to discover what I want. And then, you set a timeline. How long do I want to go, seeing if, having that excitement? How long do I want to do that before I decide I want to move on from there? Okay. You are the one in control. You get to decide what you want to do. Okay. And that is the most important thing that you will ever do, is give yourself permission to go where you want to do and try out what you want to try out and decide for yourself what kind of relationship you want in the first place. Okay. The only person who makes you wrong is you. So anyway, I hope that helps, Anne. And now I am going to Larissa. And Larissa writes to me. Let's see. Larissa, I don't see you here, so I'm assuming you'll get this on the replay wherever in the world you are. But Larissa has a really quick question, a really short one, but it's a good one. Hi, Jane. Why the relationships started online do not last? So why do the relationships that are started online do not last? So this has obviously been your experience here with this and what you heard. That most relationships that start online do not last. Why are they so shallow for most people? Okay. All right. Why do they feel so shallow? Why are they so shallow for most people? Okay, Larissa, I think I gotcha. Okay, so I'll tell you something about online relationships. There are people who prove me wrong all the time about certain dating apps because this is what your question brings up for me. I used to say with Tinder, I never liked Tinder that much when it first came out because Tinder just seemed so surfacey and just so, based on looks and all that. And then I'll tell you what's happened is I've had so many people tell me that they met or they knew someone who met their spouse, their significant other on Tinder. And I was just like, all right, so I guess I can be wrong on this one. So I started thinking more about the online dating apps and how so many people have a problem with some of them. And Tinder used to be the one in particular that people would have a problem with. And what I want to say about that is that because I have met so many, like this friend of my kids, he was going to a wedding in Utah for his sister, and his sister was in her late 40s. And I said, okay, and she'd never been married before ever. And so she identifies with what a lot of my coaching clients are. And so she said, I asked him, I said, go, when you're at this wedding, you've got to find out for me how they met, because I need to know, how did they meet? Because apparently they're perfect for each other and all this. And anyway, so he came back, and of course, guess what he told me? They met on Tinder. And so I have just discovered that for every person who says that online dating apps are so surface and they're so, so shallow, exactly what you're saying, Larissa, and I hear you on this one, because that is the common stereotype, and it's also what I hear all the time from a lot of women who, and men too. I coach some really nice, some really sweet, sensitive, kind men. And I help them through this too. And they find the same thing. They're so shallow. Everyone's got like a checklist and they're so shallow and it's so frustrating. And so I hear this a lot. And yet I hear from a lot of other women who are meeting their significant, their partners. They're getting married because of someone they met on the dating app. So I'm going to tell you how to make your relationship online last and how for them not to be so shallow. Okay. And what I want to say about that is think of online dating as just one more resource, because a lot of this is in the approach. Okay. Online dating is just one more way to increase the pool of people that you get to draw from, that you get to meet with parameters that you can pick. So it's just increasing the pool size. You get more variety, more types of men. And yay, in that you're going to get the negative kinds and you're going to have the experiences you don't want along with the experiences you do. Okay, that's all going to be in there. But at the same time, you can also date smarter by recognizing that first going in, it's a tool. It's just enlarging the pool. There is nothing that is going to make this any different from real life, except that it's a larger pool and you don't have the ability to meet naturally to where you get to know someone over common interests and just through being in the same place in the same time. But what you can do is you can recognize that it's going to be a while before you meet someone online, because it's a numbers game. You get more numbers, you've increased the pool, but that also means there's more to filter through. So you have to have your criteria of what you're looking for, and you have to stick to that. Because if someone is telling you in their profile exactly who they are, okay, and we're going to go on the assumption that you can believe someone until they prove you wrong, until you can't believe them. So when you find someone in a line, you find a player, you find someone who's clearly just playing the whole, that you're just whatever number for them. They're on there for an ego trip. And you'll learn to recognize that for sure. But until someone shows you that you cannot trust them, I want you to go into this as just looking at it as these are all just people. Okay. There's just a room full of people you get to choose from. And so you're the one who gets to use this tool for you, for your benefit. You're not here to be eliminated. You're not like on some dating show to be eliminated, okay? This is you using it as a tool. And if you use it correctly as a tool where you're looking for the qualities, you're reading the profiles, you're looking for the things that you're actually looking for, you're not getting swayed by other things that come into play, you are going to have much more success with being on here, because so much of it is a mindset, and that comes through. And if your expectation, and also the discouragement, because if your expectations are that you're going to meet someone right away, that everyone is going to be, potentially either one way or another, you're going to find that to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. But instead, if it is a tool and it's just one thing in your toolbox of all different ways that you have of meeting people who are going to be potential mates, it's going to benefit you so much more. So instead of looking at the negative side, look at it as a mindset and look at it as you don't know yet who these people are. It's going to take getting to know them. It's going to take going through a lot of numbers, a lot of different men, a lot of different profiles. But if you can keep in mind that this is just one tool that a lot of women have used to meet people, and they don't have any kind of a secret going on that you don't have to how they do it. All they're doing is they're remembering, they're being realistic about it. This is not going to be, they're not going to meet someone just like that. They're not going to meet someone who is absolutely perfect just because their profile seems perfect. People can lie on a profile, absolutely. But you're not looking for those people, and you're not also looking for the people who you don't want. So you're focused on what you do want. You are going to have a much easier time finding that. Now, none of this is easy. You have to filter through numbers, and this is one more tool with a lot of numbers to filter through. But at the same time, you with that mindset, you have the stamina, you can do it. All you need to do is just keep that perspective and just recognize, you know, you're going to get to know someone. If you're not going to get to know them, if you don't get a response back, I don't know what websites you're on, try a different website. There are so many different ones. Like I said, Tinder was one I was never recommending, and I, can't believe how many people have met on there. I've heard of little niche ones where people meet that have gone really well. And if you have something to do, like I know JDate, I had a woman meet her husband on there that she finally decided to go on that one, and she had held off on doing that. I know someone else who went on. She was on one. It was a more like a more spiritual, alternative type one, and she met an amazing guy on there. So it's. I used to always recommend like eHarmony. Because it's more of like a matchmaking thing, but I've found on there's been a lot of people who've had matches that were not the greatest match. So it really depends on who you are and where you're at. Bumble, I've had a lot of women talk about the success they've had on there. It really depends on what you personally are comfortable with, but don't be afraid to try different ones. This isn't I don't have the stamina for it because they're all the same. This is, let's find the different men. Let's find the actual real men on here. Because I know there's some, because I'm helping these other men. I'm coaching them on there, and they're on the dating sites, and they're legitimately great men. And they're finding the same thing with a lot of the women. So we're just, we're doing it together and just going through it and recognizing it. It's just, again, one more tool. So I think the biggest part of it is your mindset and how realistic you are about your expectations on that website. Okay. So anyway, but I do hear you, Larissa. And I know that it is for a lot of people, it does seem that way, and it is that way for a lot of people on there. It is an ego trip, and it is a numbers game in a negative way, that they're just trying to, see how many people how many women they can get, or whatever it is for them. So don't take any of that personally. Just keep the right perspective there, and I really hope that helps to give you some perspective. Okay, so all right. Tracy has a question. And Gina, I'm glad to hear. Okay, good. I'm glad that addressed, sounds like what I was talking about in my last one for you too. Okay, Tracy. Tracy asks, how much contact and communication with an ex-wife, ex-girlfriend should a man in a committed relationship have? And what can you do to inspire him to stop after expressing your feelings that this behavior is a red flag? Okay, Tracy, so it sounds like you got a similar thing as the one I talked to a little bit earlier. So you've got someone, okay, so you're in a committed relationship with a guy. That's great. But it sounds like there's an issue with how much contact and communication he has with an ex-wife and an ex-girlfriend. Maybe both, maybe one. I hope, we'll see. Anyway, so you've talked to him. So you've expressed your feelings to him that this behavior is a red flag, and he keeps on doing it. So you want to know how much. So if you've told him, this is what I'm looking for, Tracy. So you've told him that this is not okay with you, right? You're saying, you've expressed to him your feelings about him. You've said it bothers you. You feel, whether or not you've said, you feel insecure, you feel concerned about it. It's hard for you. Whatever you've communicated to him has been that this is problematic. And so what he's done, so he hasn't stopped, obviously, because you want to inspire him to stop, because you've already expressed that it's a red flag. So if you came across judgmental with him, and I know you probably didn't mean to at all, but if he has perceived you judging him for this, then he's going to have his back up around this, and he may want to do it even more. And that is not okay, but it is a certain amount of normal behavior for you to tell a guy that something, if he feels judged for it, again, not okay, but if he feels judged, he can do more of it just to show you can't control him, because he's listened to the stereotype that a woman will try to control you. She is going to be controlling. And so what he's going to hear is she's trying to limit who my friends are. She's trying to limit how much contact and communication I can have with my ex. She is a controlling woman that I have been warned about. And so I am not going to let her manipulate me and control me, right? And so this is unfortunately, it's a response that can come up, just a matter of, again, unfortunately, human nature, because men have been programmed to believe this, and that can pop into their head even when this scenario comes up, even if they have not thought of it this way. Okay, so even if they don't even realize what they're doing, they can do that, and we don't want that. But again, we're dealing with what is, and sometimes this happens solely because they feel like their freedom is being threatened, that their ability to decide on their own, to not have a woman try to control them, is coming into play here. So if that is what's going on, the first thing to do is to just back out and let's revisit this. Okay. So if it hasn't stopped after you expressing your feelings, I'm going to look at it was probably how you expressed it, how you said it in the first place. I would love it if every guy would immediately hear you say how you feel, and when you're expressing how you feel about something, and they would accommodate that, or they would immediately give you the behavior that was needed and take the action or stop doing something simply because you asked them to stop. It was bothering you, because that is the type of behavior that we're looking for, is someone who's considerate of you, someone who hears your feelings, someone who hears you express what you need and gives you that. But that's not always what we get in the reality picture. So first of all, if someone is not responding by doing what you have asked him to do, so he's still communicating and still contacting this ex, whether it's an ex-wife or an ex-girlfriend, and you have a problem with it, and he knows that. So first of all, yeah, that is a problem, because it does tell you the way that he treats you, the way that he treats something that bothers you, the way that he is when you bring up something that bothers you. And it's concerning that that isn't enough of a reason for him to stop. So make no mistake, this is a concern. This is a problem. Now, before you decide if it's enough to do something about it, I'd like you to try talking to him again about it. And I'd like you to say to him, in a different way than you did before. So instead of coming at it by telling him that it's a red flag that he has this behavior. Okay, so where the manliness, the programming kicks in, and he feels like he has to then counter that feeling by set you in your place and make sure you know you can't control him. Okay, because again, programming. So instead of all of that, I want you to say to him something along the lines of, hey, I want to know that I have as much priority with you as your ex does. And so when I hear that your ex gets all this communication with you, it kind of makes me feel a little jealous. So I feel jealous when you're with him, or communicating with her, and know that she gets this part with you. So can you hear me on this one, that I don't feel good about this? I don't feel comfortable. It makes me feel a little jealous. It makes me feel a little bit, you're being honest with him. And if honesty, if the way you were saying it before, this behavior is a red flag. Okay, so if you're saying it before to him, expressing your feelings that this behavior is a red flag, that has a whole different feel than you saying, you're still in a lot of contact and communication here going on with your ex, and it really makes me feel kind of left out. When you say that to him and you stop there and you don't tell him what you need him to fix or how you want him to fix it, and you first let him tell you how he's going to fix it, that is huge, because it allows him to step up and fix it for you. And the majority of men want to fix things for you, but they want to fix it for you on their terms. They don't want you to tell them how to fix it for them. They don't want you to be the one who comes in here and tells them fix this by doing this now. Do it now. I need you to do this. This is a red flag that you are still talking to your ex. They don't want to know that. That sounds like something that, you're talking to your girlfriends about, and having all these conversations secretly, and then presenting it to him as you're a bad guy. You're not a good boyfriend because you still you still communicate with your ex. So it's the feeling then that he feels like this, controlled, emasculated guy who can't fix it himself. So inspire him by telling him again, rephrasing it in a way that doesn't have any control in there, but instead communicates to him that you feel left out. You feel maybe intimidated. Maybe you feel, you feel whatever, insecure, whatever you want to say to him, whatever you feel comfortable, but make it real and make it vulnerable. Because if you're in a committed relationship with this guy, and this is a guy that you have chosen, then there's something in here where you have already laid the groundwork. You guys have already gotten to the past the initial beginning part where you're not quite sure of how to say things or how to communicate things. You should be at the point now where you can communicate about this, and you can say, I feel vulnerable with this, or I feel, this makes me feel insecure. This makes me feel kind of left out. And then let him fix it. And if all you get is him coming back to you with, well, that's your problem. You got to get over that. Or I'm going to be friends with her. She's my ex. I can talk. Or if you get an answer like, I can talk to whoever I want to talk to. I mean, those are red flags. Those are red flags because you've tried a second time, more than just saying that his behavior is a red flag, but you've come back and you've said to him how you feel. You haven't made it about him being bad, because that's what he hears. Okay, that is so important to remember with so many things. If you say something in a way that makes him feel bad, then he is going to feel on the defensive, and he's going to come back attacking you. Okay. I mean, hopefully he's not going to, but I mean, that's just the reality of a lot of men. Okay. But if you say to him something that allows him to fix it for you, that gives him an opportunity to fix it for you without you coming in with the control factor here, that's going to go over so much better, because he is going to be given that chance to do that. He's going to want to do that. And like I said, this is how you separate a good guy from one who, maybe it's not such a bad thing if you lost him, even if it feels that way. Okay. So the biggest thing there is, to just look at, like, how are you communicating this with him? And, are you giving him a chance to fix it, to be the man that he wants to be and fix it for you? And if that is not him, and the response is instead, you don't get to tell me what to do. You don't get to tell me who I hang around with, who I communicate with, and how often. That speaks volumes. Listen to that, because that is telling you clearly that this is a guy who has no regard for your feelings, no matter how you come across to him, because there is nothing more enticing and attractive than a woman who is basically saying, I need you to fix it because this is bothering me. This is hurting me. This is what it, this is the problem, and leaves it to him to come up with the solution. And if he's not doing that, if he's not coming up with the solution, if he's not fixing it for you, something's wrong. Okay. So that's how you know. So really good question, Tracy. You're not the only one who obviously talks about exes. That's the second one I've had tonight here that I hopefully have shed some light on with the exes and what you can do. And how much power you have, I think, is the most important thing over discussing exes and your comfort level with exes, because this does not get better. This does not get better. I've heard from women who haven't addressed it, who have let it just kind of go, hoping it was going to go away, and it didn't go away. It got worse. So you're much better off to just be realistic and tell them how it makes you feel, but without going into without going into why he's bad. Leave that part there, or any part that he would hear that he's bad. And instead, just stop there and say your piece and let him fix it for you. Because whether or not he fixes it or doesn't, whether he belittles you, puts it back on you, is going to tell you everything you need to know about what kind of guy you actually have. Okay. It's a real revealing moment that you need to see to learn from. All right. Okay. Moving on to the next one. And hi, Lindsay. I was just thinking about you and I was going to ask you how the move went. So, oh my goodness, I'm so excited that you're there. I hope it all went well. I wrote the email to you in my head. Okay. Melissa has written to me here. Okay. So Melissa wrote, I met a man 3 years ago when he asked questions about his dog's behavior. I am a trainer. Oh, Melissa, oh my goodness, you are, I have so much respect for dog trainers. I have 3 dogs and 2 of them are rescues. And oh my goodness, I don't know what I would do without dog trainers. And yeah, you guys are very, very valuable. Okay, so he asked questions about his dog's behavior. We became platonic, texting each other every day for 1.5 years. Okay, so this is 3 years ago. And for the last year, or for the first 1.5 years, you guys were texting each other every day. Melissa, are you here? I don't know where in the world you are, so you may be getting this on the replay. That's fine too. But okay. So for 1.5 years, they're texting each other. He then hinted by referring to his preferences in dating, etc. Okay, and started a long text session about being single and available. Got it. So you're first just friends. Now you're having long text sessions about being single and available. Okay, so it went to that, and then you go back to your usual texting. You went back to that, and then a month later he texted he was getting tested for COVID because he didn't want to be a danger to anyone. And he said to you, honest, I miss physical intimacy. And then you decided to meet to give each other hugs. Okay, so you went on a hike without his dog. So this is extra. This isn't just the dog training session. You're actually going on something official because you don't have the reason with the dog that he would be there with you. Okay, so you went on a hike. So this is how it began, is what I'm hearing here. And then he texted that night that he wanted to do it again. So he went to go on another hike. He sent me hearts, kisses, etc. Okay. Then he had a death in the family that devastated to him. Okay. And then he goes down the path of saying he was useless and grief-stricken. So we put off another meeting, but we still talk constantly. Okay. He's very sensitive, more so than any other man I've ever known. They all are. They all are. All these guys that you talk to me about, the biggest lie we were ever told was that we women are the sensitive, emotional ones. Okay. Men are the most sensitive men. And the problem is species of both of us. And the problem is they've never been allowed to be. So this is where they're even more sensitive because they have to hide it because they were brought up as little boys. It's changing gradually. These new generations are not going to have it that bad because they're allowed to have more feelings. But the generations, it's going to take a while because the majority of generations have been brought up. They have not been able to admit their sensitivities. In fact, they've almost had it, hit out of them, beaten out of them. They've just been treated horribly if they were sensitive. They were told to man up. They were, I talk about this all the time, so you know. Okay. So yeah, but this is a more sensitive guy than anyone you've ever known. Okay, so he's open about his crying. He's not an alpha male type. Okay, got it. We talk constantly afterwards. One night he told me about how much my friendship means to him, that I was one of the most important person in his life. And I was shocked because we hardly ever saw each other. And I was taken back by the word friend. Okay. So she just listened. And then an hour later, his voice dropped into a very soft romantic tone. And he whispered, oh, my sweetheart, I can't wait to see you again. Okay, so this is a conversation that you guys had early on. I froze because I'm crazy about him and very shy myself. So stupidly, I softly said night, night, and gently hung up the phone. If someone did that to me, I would think they were not interested in me and telling me that strongly. I see, because he ended the conversation with something that was very intimate and sweet, right? Oh, my sweetheart, I can't wait to see you again. And you said night, night, and you hung up. Okay, so you behaved, so you hung up, you were thrown off, you didn't know what to make of it, you froze because you actually were so interested in him and you responded like that. Okay, I get it. So, however, I expected him to continue in this openness because the other men I knew never let them stop them from pursuing, but he did not. Okay. It went back to platonic and testing. Okay, so basically he opened up too much. He got scared. You ended it with night, night instead of and hanging up because you were uncomfortable. Okay, so it sounds like you guys needed to have a conversation at that point, but it sounds like both of you were maybe a little shy or uncertain. Well, and he got scared because that's usually the case. So, and he's not the alpha male, so he probably needed something more in there from you, but he didn't communicate that to you, and you obviously weren't comfortable with initiating that or whatever, right? But okay, let's go on here. It went back to platonic and texting, and I've been trying to make up for my hanging up for a year now. Okay, so that was the deciding point. That was where things changed. Back to platonic. And so now from that point, you've been trying to make up for that. Okay, got it. So you guys never addressed that again. You've texted that you couldn't wait to see him. You've asked about going on another hike, everything to make up for not opening up when he did, but to no avail. We did 2 more hikes, the last one last July, 2021. Every time I suggest another one, he just says, yes, let's talk about a hike. Okay, so hikes are safe for him. That's what you know, okay? I want you to make that point. And Lee, I'll get to your questions too in the chat. Anyone else, if you have questions through these, put them in the chat. If these other emails from other women's situations or questions spark something and you feel free to put it in the chat, we'll get to it after. I think I am too shy to say how I feel since I have had no more openings from him. So you're waiting for him. And so you're shy, and he's not feeling comfortable because he's feeling like he opened up too much. I think I've given him enough hints, but he now, instead of everyday texts, it's just platonic things about his dog every few weeks. It's been 3 weeks now since his last text. I responded to that one, but it was not one that needed an answer. Can I ever get out of the friend zone, back to that feeling he had when he opened up to me a year ago? I kick myself every day for not responding that night to the romantic words he said to me. Oh, don't. Please stop, okay? Melissa, stop kicking yourself, okay? Stop beating yourself up for what you did on that when you did not. Yeah, I mean, that's just, yeah, you can see how things turned ever since then, but beating yourself up is not going to help you because, he's not perfect either, obviously. And so, okay. And another thing about that, I want to say right here, why is all of the pressure on you for perfection? Okay? Because, I get this. This is what we do. We beat ourselves up like this, and this is the common thing, right? It's your fault. You could have changed this. It was in your hands to change this, and you blew it. You missed your chance to do that, right? That's the language. Okay. So stop that. Don't do that, because this is not all on you. Yeah, it might have gone differently, and we can still, I'm coming to that. It can still go differently. But to beat yourself up for the fact that you didn't respond to those romantic words that threw you off. You had a similar response to what he did, but you're the one who's beating yourself up for it. You're giving him opportunities to do something different, but you're the one beating yourself up. So you got to stop that, because it's what we do. We put all this pressure. We're the ones, we take responsibility, right? Over responsibilitizing is what I coined. I don't even know if that's a word, but anyway, that's what I talk about this on all my calls. Over responsibilitizing is our thing. We take over we overly compensate for the responsibility of whose fault it is when something like this happens. Okay, don't do that. I feel like I'm acting needy now and trying to get him back to that feeling that night, because when I suggest getting together again, he says, yes, let's talk about that. And then he drops it. He has to know I want to see him, since I keep bringing it up. We never held hands or kissed, etc. It's awkward going from friends to lovers. I flirted a little on our last one, and he started opening the car door for me, kind of like a real date. I thanked him profusely for doing that, but he never said, this was your hike, I'm assuming, but he's never suggested seeing each other again. Always very proper. Timing is everything. I think he has lots of options because he's very attractive. I've never dated anyone like him. It wasn't until I met him and got to know him as a friend that I wanted to be more than friends. I responded to his last text 3 weeks ago, and I haven't heard back. Okay, so it's been 3 weeks. You responded to him. You haven't heard back from that last response. I do not plan to text him again. I will wait to see what he does. Sometimes now our texts go 4 weeks. Okay, so 4 weeks in between, a month. I'm talking to many other men who want to see me, but truthfully, I'm only interested in him. If he had not opened up so much a year ago, I would never have thought I'd had a chance. I do feel he's superior to me. He had a successful business. He has a successful business, a big loving family, and tons of friends. Now I'm just trying to move on, but it hurts like hell. He does refer to himself as a two-time loser, but remains friends with his first wife, so he's not a toxic person. He did say a second marriage was a toxic relationship. Thanks so much, Melissa. Oh boy, Melissa. I hear you. I mean, I feel the pain. Oh, that's, yeah, because you're blaming yourself and you feel like it is your fault and you feel like this is something that you need to fix, and you're taking it all on yourself because he's not fixing it, whether or not, he should or not, but he's not. And so it feels awful to know that you were the one who left this here. So, all right. You have given him so many opportunities. You've let him know that, I mean, you basically have given him very subtle opportunities. You've done everything, I think, except talk about what happened that night. Because when you said, what did you say here? You said one thing in here. Okay. So you said you flirted a little on your last hike, and he started opening the car door for you, kind of like a real date. Okay. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere more than this, because I think that he opened up to you, but I don't think I'm going to take you back to that. Okay. I'm going to take you back to that night. I'm going to tell you what I believe would have happened based on my experience with very similar situations here, Melissa, because I really want to get you some peace. I want to get you some relief, because I feel like the entire problem here is that you are beating yourself up so much, and you are holding this weight. You're carrying the weight of the world here on this, the weight of your mistake here. I mean, you're calling it your mistake, I'm sure, and just you're carrying the weight of this, and it's just always there. Okay. And so what I want to say about that, I want to go back to that night. Okay. And I want to say that, let's say that when he said that to you, because, okay, that was very soft. Yeah. Like you said, it was his voice dropped into a very soft romantic tone. He whispers, "Oh, my sweetheart, I can't wait to see you again." Okay. I think he got ahead of himself, and I think he blurted out something that he didn't really know what to do with. And he didn't really know where that came from. And I think he was embarrassed. And I think he was ashamed of that after. He's so sensitive. And so let's say that you did the right thing that you think you should have done. And let's say that you say that you would have responded to that with something more positive, where you said, "I can't wait to see you again either." Let's say you had said that. Okay. I don't think it would have changed things. I actually don't think it would have changed things, because I don't think he owns that. I don't think he's comfortable with that side of him. I think that what came out there was something he blurted out. I don't think he would have gotten a repeat of that if you had given him a different response. Because everything you've told me now, like reading through to the end of this, you went in here and you basically covered, like, you guys have been on these kind of like friendshipy type hiking dates since then. You've given him an opportunity, and you've got nothing from him. There is no way that someone is going to be on the cusp of opening up and changing everything and being this amazing man that you've been waiting for. There is just no way that he's going to like come that close and then nothing. There is no way. So I want to take you back to that night, and I want you to go back there with me, and I want you to create a new story here on this one. Okay. The reality that night, if you had said what you keep beating yourself up about, that you wish you had said, okay, if you had done that, it wouldn't have changed a thing. Because honestly, I do not see it happening when I see it. Yeah, he would have just, I don't see it changing anything. I don't see it changing anything, because nothing about his behavior has shown you a comfort level of him being open with you. And there is no way. I mean, I get it that you're saying he's so sensitive, but if he could be vulnerable then and be comfortable enough with it then, for it to actually form a more of a relationship, you'd see something. You've seen nothing from him. So I do think probably now it's awkward, because you're carrying this with you. So what I want you to do, Melissa, I want you to raise yourself up to his level. Okay. And you're right. You knew what I was going to ask you. You definitely knew what I was going to ask you, that you're saying you recognize that you feel like he's superior to you, okay? Because that's what I'm going to say. You're his equal, okay? You're actually okay. He may have a successful business, he may have more family and friends and all that. Okay, you've got something, okay? And all those dogs, wow, you're like, yeah, yeah. So you've got your own successful business, okay? And I'll tell you, I got a lineup of people with dogs who need to be trained who would come to you. So I'm sure you have no shortage, whatever part of the world you're in. So you have a successful business yourself, and if it's not, let's talk, because I know a lot about dogs and I know people who need dog trainers. So let's talk about that if it's not. Um, and you are attractive too, and obviously you can still get dates because you're doing that. So this is one guy who basically gave you a moment where you can jump on this, that you messed up, and that is what this is about. You are not getting off of this part where you messed up. You're not able to forgive yourself, you're not able to let go of this, and that is clouding this entire friendship, whatever this is. Okay, so what I want you to do two things for me. The first thing I want you to do, it doesn't sound like you're training his dogs anymore, doing anything with that. So what I want you to see is, if you can initiate one time a hike. Okay, it's been enough time. If it's been a month, I think you said it's been a month now, or 3 weeks now. It's been 3 weeks. Okay, so initiate a hike with him. Once you're on his level, okay, like once you've gotten the mindset that you are on his same level, you guys are both equals. Once you've gotten to that point, I want you to initiate something here. One hike. And then I want you to go on that hike, and I want you to be his equal on that hike. You have a successful business. You're an attractive woman. He needed you. So whatever his business is, he actually needed you. He needed you to train his dog. Okay. So you have something valuable that he doesn't have. And I want you to go on there, and I want you to feel the confidence of knowing that you're his equal. So when you can do that, when you understand that, then I want you to do that. Okay, one hike, because I want you to go, and I want you to feel your own power, and I want you to feel what it feels like to know you haven't done anything wrong, that night nothing would have changed. Okay, whatever you did, nothing would have changed. So I want you to carry that kind of energy with you to see if that moves the needle at all. I don't think it will, but I want you to see that if anything would, it is, first of all, you being his equal, okay, equals, not blaming yourself about this. And two, if that doesn't work, at the end of that hike, I want you to tell him directly, hey, I've always gone back to that night where we were on the phone, and, you were really vulnerable with me. When you said that you were looking forward to seeing me again. And I want you to know that I remember that night when I stupidly hung up the phone, because I was shy. I froze, and I want you to know I handled that night really badly. And I'm sorry, because I would have, I was thinking that I was really looking forward to seeing you again too. And stop right there. Okay, short, to the point. All it is you're going back there and you're quitting this. You're stopping and you're telling him, you're stopping the heaping on of this blame and shame and embarrassment that you are putting on yourself, where your words here that you stupidly did it. Okay. I want you to get this off and settled once and for all. And in order to do that, if you don't sense something different happening on that hike, because you're communicating with an energy that you're his equal, if that does not change anything, then you have absolutely nothing to lose by bringing out the elephant in the room. For you, he may not even remember it, but it doesn't matter, because this whole thing is about you. It's how you are feeling about yourself, and that is affecting all of this. So you need to be the one to come out and say what it is. okay, and explain to him what happened. Well, basically you're being vulnerable and you're admitting it. You're saying, "Hey, I didn't handle this really well, and I'm sorry that I wasn't, that was like the last answer. Here you are being vulnerable with me, and I'm responding like this." And do you see the difference when you're tiptoeing around this and you're afraid to bring it up because you are so beating yourself up for your response here? Then this is nothing can break through this. You feel so bad, so down, so you're so mad at yourself. There can be none of this that needs to come up underneath after this. So you're eliminating that. You're forgiving yourself. You're recognizing you don't want to change anything. And to him, you're acknowledging it. You're saying it out loud to him. And I mean, honestly, if you can almost even laugh about it, like whatever comes up for you, I want you to be vulnerable with him. And because you've got nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose here. You're either going to say something and that will bring something out different, a different result, or you're going to tell him this. He's going to look at you with a blank look. Nothing's going to happen. And it's going to be awkward and it's going to reinforce for you, okay, nothing changed. We're right back where we were. Because at this point, if he goes 4 weeks without talking to you, texting you, and this is all going on in your head and you keep thinking about him, you absolutely have nothing to lose. There's nothing here. There is nothing here for you to lose by being vulnerable with him. And just, even if you end up, like I said, you can almost laugh about it, right? Like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. You know, that night that you said this to me and I responded in like the worst way. And I have never forgotten how I responded to you. And that's it. And then you let that silence, let that pause happen after you said that, right? And then see what he says. Okay. I hope, I really hope that helps, because I hope it's clear what I'm saying. If it's not, let me know. But I hope that's really clear, because it is so clear to me that that's it. That's what's going on, and that's how you release it, and you have absolutely nothing to lose. And it's time you do that, because this tiptoeing around it and just the silence in the 3-4 weeks, well, you carry this in you, on you, it just that's no one deserves that. Okay, so don't do that to yourself, because this has gone on long enough. This has been a long time, and I wish you'd come to me sooner, because I would have loved to have settled this earlier for you, because this is really hard. All right. I hope that helped others of you too in there. Okay. Okay, Patricia. Patricia writes to me and said that the man that she wants to be with is in jail. I want to know if he's going to be able to overcome the charges he has and get out of jail time and spend the rest of our lives together. Okay, so Patricia, okay, so what I want to say about this is, I get all situations on here, and so I do get, you're not the first woman. I do get some women who are in love with someone who is in jail and they're waiting for him to get out. Okay. So I don't know what charges he's in for. Okay. I'm really hoping if you're with a guy who's in jail, I'm really hoping that the charges are something that are really minor, because if they're anything, I mean, I get the obvious question is, why do you want to be with someone who is, who would commit some kind of a criminal offense that he is in jail? I don't know what the circumstances are. You didn't go into any more detail, but I wanted to answer you because you're obviously hurting and you're reaching out. So I want to know if he's going to be able to overcome the charges he has. Well, it'll depend on if he's got a good lawyer and if he's guilty or innocent, right? So I can't answer that. It depends on those factors, and we don't know what those are. But I hope, I mean, what I would be more concerned about, because it sounds like to me, and this is why I wanted to answer you, because it sounds to me like your vision here is very short-sighted. You have fallen for this guy who is in jail and you just want to be together. But my concern is you're not looking at your well-being, right? You don't want to be with someone who could do something that is criminal. Okay. You don't want to have you don't want to be a part of this life. Okay. You don't. I know he's probably sweet to you. I know he probably has told you all whatever the sob story is and all that. But the reality is you don't want to be with someone who might do something that would either implicate you. Okay. And you also don't want to be in a situation where your own personal safety it might be threatened. Okay. Or yeah, so so I would look, because I know you feel what you feel, obviously, but I would look at number one, I would look at why you are wanting this guy. Why do you want to spend the rest of your lives with him? What is it about him? Is it him? Is it the idea of him? There are women who are drawn to bad boys and to someone who is in jail. That's kind of like the ultimate bad boy. I've seen this before where there is like a preoccupation with someone who, is dangerous. And there's an addiction thing there that can go on with something where there's an excitement around that. So, I mean, that's something I would look at here. What's going on with this with you? Is this someone who is healthy for you? Is this someone who you want to spend the rest of your life together? What does that look like? Like, look at the reality. I don't know what is playing in here, but look at the reality of what this relationship is going to look like for you. How safe are you with him? How trustworthy is he? How okay are you going to be with him? I mean, these are all good questions to look at. And then ultimately, why him? Why him? I would ask myself, why him if I were you? And then just make sure you're safe here and make sure that you're making the right decision. And then imagine, I don't know if you have a daughter, but imagine that your daughter is telling you the same thing. She's got someone who's in jail that she wants to be with. How do you respond to her? What do you say to her? And I would say a similar thing to you. All right. Okay, Patricia. All right. So, Janine has her question today. And Janine, I think you're on here. So here you are. You've been waiting. Janine writes that she's been involved with a man for the past 5 months. It was a long distance relationship. Okay. 5 months. You live 3 hours apart, much like the one who lived two and a half hours we just read about. But we would catch up in person. Okay. So had been. So this is past tense. Okay. So something's going to happen here. We're going to find out about. So for the past 5 months, you've been with this guy in a long distance relationship, 3 hours apart. You're in person seeing him every 3 to 4 weeks. You're talking on the phone or texting nearly every night. You're letting him mainly contact you because okay, that's good. Good, because you want to gauge how keen he is. That's really good, because if you're letting a guy initiate, this is for all of us, if you're letting someone initiate, that is telling you valuable information about how into you he is, how much he values good communication, how willing he is to communicate with you. Okay. So that's good. Plus, this had been a mistake I'd made in previous relationships. I was always the one chasing the man, the first one to contact, etc. Okay, I want to do things differently this time. Good. So 3 weeks ago, he completely ceased any contact. He ghosted me. Okay, so totally out of the blue, ghosts you. Got it. I was quite bewildered and a little disappointed with this, as we spent most nights. But again, I stuck to my new attitude. Don't chase him. Let him come to you. Okay, so you spoke most nights. Got it. Okay, Monday this week, he finally rang. Okay, so 3 weeks ago. So he went so basically he went about 2.5 weeks without contacting you at all. So he ghosted you 2.5 weeks. Monday, he explains himself. He tells you he met someone new, a local lady, so he was moving on and our relationship was over. Oh, I'm sorry. That is hard. It hurts even if you suspect it, because, that still hurts. I'd actually suspected this, as it was so weird and out of character, he suddenly ceased all contact. Jane, I know my relationship with this man was only short, but I'd fallen for him and I'm hurting a bit now, especially knowing I was abandoned for another woman, and to know he'll be sleeping with her and having a great time Great sex life with someone else. We were great together. And this man, okay. So basically, you guys had you had a lot of in common in bed. And so you're thinking he's got, so he wouldn't have wasted any time being with some new woman. My question is, how can I learn to actually trust a man again? Looking back on the past 5 months, I never really trusted this man. Okay, there's the key. You knew there was something there in this 5 months. You never really trusted him. Okay, and I got to tell you, I'll reiterate this. I think I have a post about the 3 or 4 month mark. Never trust a man until at least 3-4 months, 4 to play it safe, at least. Okay, but that around the 3-4 month mark, something happens. You find out who someone really is. A guy cannot sustain his behavior for more than 3 or 4 months. Okay, that's when, if he's on good behavior and it's only an act, or it's his best behavior, it's what he wants to be, but it actually isn't who he is, you're never going to get more than 3 or 4 months out of that. Okay, he can't keep it up for that long without showing you some cracks in what you're seeing. Okay, so and that would fall in line, because if it was 3 weeks ago that he stopped contact and it's been 5 months, that would be about the 4 months and 1 week. So it's going to be around that time that so that's basically what you saw. So it was good that you never really trusted him until then, but that is also the key here. So how can I learn to really trust a man again? Well, first of all, you're going to make sure that someone's trustworthy. And so you're going to get past the 4 month mark to make sure you know, because that is that's telling right there. So when you say, I never really trusted this man, as he's very outgoing and charismatic, and he lives in a tourist town renowned for its partying atmosphere. Okay, all of these. Yeah. So the biggest thing here is that you never really trusted him. I want you to listen to that next time. When your gut, I can't tell you how many times I have been so right about that, but I never wanted to believe it. And this is the same thing I see happening with the women that I'm coaching too. They want to believe, they talk about it after, and after we talk about the red flags, and they're like, I never really trusted him, or I always had my doubts, or I had a feeling about this. And it's like, okay, please listen to those feelings in the moments. You'll save yourself so much heartbreak. It'll be so much easier if you can see that. Okay. So the number one thing though from this is you already saw this. So you trust a man by choosing someone who's trustworthy, by waiting a certain amount of time to make sure he is trustworthy. Okay. So that's really important with that. So I always feel now I have to do lots of background detective work on a potential new man. Yeah, you do. You do. And you did it with the latest man, but you still didn't trust him. So honestly, your gut says everything. You've got a lot of experience. You are right there in front of him. You get a feel. Very, very rarely are there ever any clear-cut cases of where there were no red flags, there were no signs. It's usually we just don't listen to them, or we run headlong into them because we don't want to believe them. We want to think there's so much else in there that's so good. We want to believe we're right. So, or we're right that this really is something amazing, and we're wrong when our warning bells are going off, telling us there's something there. Okay. How do you just relax into a new relationship and trust someone new without this feeling of needing to investigate and find out about a new man in my life? I've been let down by many men over the years. I'm sure that's why I don't trust nowadays, and I feel the need to always do my detective work. Thanks, Jane. Okay. Oh, you're sweet. Thanks, Janine, for your kind words there. Okay. So what I would say on that one is, first of all, you have to pick trustworthy men before you're going to be able to trust them. So obviously these men have not been trustworthy, which is why you didn't trust them. So it's a different type of man that you're going to need. And I would look at, like, what type of man do you need? What type of man is going to be a trustworthy man? There is something. And if I had to guess, knowing what I know about most of us who find our way here, and most of what you've said here about the charisma and all this stuff. So I got to tell you, you got to look beyond that. You got to look past that. There is so much more. Have your list, okay? Your qualities over charisma. I can't. Yeah. Okay. So that feeling that you get, that excitement, that feeling like, the chemistry, the intense connection that you've never had with anyone else but him. Okay. Qualities need to be more important than that. Okay, that is all fine. You can observe that. You can recognize who you're attracted to. You can recognize who makes you feel that way. You can recognize all of those types like that. But the number one thing beyond that is What are the qualities that someone that you're interested has? What are the qualities that you are most looking for? Like, what matters the most to you? Those qualities are everything. And if you don't have like things like how he treats me, right? Like how he treats me, considerateness, kindness, trustworthy behavior. I mean, I don't think, I'll tell you what I think it is. I really do believe, because this has been the typical MO here, very similar. Like what you're describing, I've probably got like the last 10 women I've talked to, 50 women I've probably talked to, have similar stories to this that they bring to me. And literally, and in your neck of the woods too, where there are men who, it's this charisma. They never know if they're seeing someone else. So I don't think you should trust these men. I don't think trust is an issue. I think it's that you're not trusting someone because you shouldn't trust them. So I don't believe you have trust issues. I don't. I think you have choosing the wrong man issues. And so start with focusing on qualities over charisma. You can have both, but you're not going to have this over the top chemistry, because over the top chemistry means you're going to have someone who is just a player. You're going to have someone who's used to pouring on the charm and then disappearing like this, or looking out for just the next best thing. So it's just this reality picture. Like I talked to someone earlier here on here about, look realistically. Do you want all of the chemistry? Do you want all of the sparks and the fireworks? Do you want a constant dating situation where you never know where you stand with someone? Or do you want a secure, trustworthy relationship with someone? It is interesting that I talked about trust. Like when I was talking about the woman who had done my program and had found such success with finding this relationship that she was looking for, the committed relationship. But what was missing, or what she was questioning, is it doesn't feel like when I was dating. Well, it doesn't feel like what it was when you're dating, with all that uncertainty and the connection that ensues when you finally feel like, oh, I've got this chemistry with someone, or something. This is exciting, what I've got with them. But that is the choice. Do you want more of that? Do you want the dopamine hints? Do you want the addiction? Do you want the highs and the lows, the ecstasy, and then the agony? I mean, you have to look at that. You have to look at that, because there is something to be said for that, if that is what you want, right? That's the lifestyle. Is it going to make you happy? Probably not in the long run. Is it something where you want that now, but you're afraid of when you get older, you'll want someone to settle down with? Well, don't look at that. There will always be someone who you will be able to settle down with. You will always find someone to settle down with later. If this is where you're at now and you're trying to fit into this mold of who you should be, that you should be settling down now, don't do that. Don't do that. Go have your fun now, and just know the shine in you, who you are. You'll get older, but you'll still have that. That's ageless. I talk to women all the way up to their 60s, 70s, and there's one woman who was almost 80, and same thing we're talking about here, okay? I mean, there's still shine. She's still got it. And so don't look at this as, I've got to I got to settle down now. If you're realistically not ready, if you have, the other part of it is, there's a lot of you who never had the early life that you wanted. There's a lot of you, especially if you're older, who never gave yourself the opportunity to be free, to have fun, to have life, to live life on your own terms, to have that. And so, I think it's worth exploring. Do you need to revisit some of that, before you're actually going to be ready to have what you think you have to have now, or you're going to be running out of time to have that? I'm not suggesting you should ever do that. What I'm saying is that be honest with yourself. And if that is where you're at, if you're stuck on that, if you're feeling so many shoulds that you should be something different than you are, well, take a good look at who you are. Because I don't think it's so bad where you are, and I don't think it's such a bad thing if what you want is who you are right now, and what you want right now is to have the feeling that someone finds you attractive, if that, and desirable and sexy, and if you want to be that, Don't bring into it the heaviness of, but I got to make that guy commit too. You're not going to make the same guy commit to you as the same guy, that's giving you the incredible sex life. I mean, the two don't necessarily go hand in hand, because one guy has made it his MO, his that's what he's about. His conquests are about, showing that he's still got it. So if he's showing that he's still got it, and his sexual conquests are where he's at, why does he get to own that by himself? If you want to have something along the same lines where you just need to know that you're worthy and you're desirable, I don't know, for some of us, maybe that's how we get it. Maybe that's how you decide that I've had enough because I just needed to prove to myself. And maybe you learn the lesson by being with the guy who is like that, and you give your permission to enjoy that, so that at the end of it, you realize, okay, I'm done there. Now I'm ready to settle down. And maybe then you can settle down into a place that you could never have gotten to if you hadn't allowed yourself to go exploring there in the first place. All because of some cultural label or some cultural should that you keep putting on yourself, that you grew up with, that someone put on you who doesn't know you, who probably isn't even wearing that label themselves because of what they went on to discover, and so don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself, because it is just, you're going to waste more time there. You're going to be back here with another guy who you've picked because he's so charismatic, but you're trying to put him into a pigeonhole and get him to commit to you and settle down and be someone he's not. I mean, that's futile. You're not going to make that out of the guy. So instead, have fun with him and enjoy him, and stop trying to get him to commit, and just recognize he's not committing. He wants to have fun. And maybe that's why you're drawn to him, because you want to have fun too. And you want to enjoy something. And maybe you want to discover the more liberated self that maybe you were never allowed to have and to be until now. And so instead of living in denial and pretending that you can accept something you can't, or that you're supposed to be someone who you can't, don't waste another relationship or years or this finding men or telling yourself there's something wrong with me because I can't get a guy who can commit. I can only get these players. Maybe accept the fact that maybe you want a player, because maybe you want to play a little bit. And if you want to play it, I will absolutely support you. I will not think any less of you. If you want to play, if you want to discover that part of you, go for it. Because honestly, I think you're going to have an easier time coming back to what you actually want after you've had a chance to live this out over there. I know someone who literally went to her deathbed, never, ever feeling like she owned her life. Okay. And she was in a marriage where she got married too young. She got married because she had to, way back when. I mean, she would have been in her late 90s now. Okay. And so we're talking, she was from a whole different generation. And she got married because she had to. She got pregnant, right? By some guy who she would never have picked otherwise, right? She would never have picked him. And so he was persuasive. And back then, they didn't do that. Or, I mean, it wasn't okay. So you had to marry the person. So she ended up being trapped in a marriage with this guy. And what ends up happening, so she lives like this. Her life is basically suffocated, right? She's not living. She's living half a life with him the entire time. And so she lives decades with this man, and they have this big, huge shindig at their church when they have their 50th wedding anniversary. And the whole thing is a sham, because this woman is living a half a life. She's trapped, but she also can't do anything about it because she's so bound by this story, this narrative, this suffocating narrative that she has to stay in this marriage. She can never leave it because the shame, and she comes from this culture, this town, this place where you can't, this church where you can't admit, you can't not get married when you've had a baby out of wedlock, and it was way back then. And then you have to stay and fight and be in this marriage, fight for this. You have to be the good wife, and you've got everything you need, right? He gives you nice things. You've got a marriage. It doesn't matter if you're not living. And you know what happened? I never discovered any of this until after she was gone. or actually after it was, yeah, it was almost too late. And she ended up there, at the end of her life. No one has heard her. No one has understood her. She's never understood herself or what was going on. And she's just gone along with what she was supposed to do. And she ends up at the very end choosing one thing. She chose how she died. She chose how she left this earth. And that's what she did. That was her choice. And she waited until the very end. And I knew that at that point, I knew there was not going to be a physical cause of death. And you know what? There wasn't. The coroner could not determine. It was undetermined. There was no physical cause of death that they could identify. So it was just unknown, whatever they say for that. But I knew that because I had learned so much in these years when it was too late, and I didn't realize it until I realized it at the end. But anyway, my point for you is that don't make your final choice being how you die, and that being the only choice you ever got to make. If you have a whole life to live now that you can choose, if you can just let go of what someone else has said you're supposed to do, okay? And so take a look at why you're choosing players. Take a look at how you're living your life now. There will be time down the road if you want to do something different. But if you just want to be free right now, if you want to choose the way you live your life, I wish that this woman was still alive today because, or I wish I had learned what was going on earlier, because I would have told her so many things. I would have had long conversations with her like the ones that I can have with you now, where I can say these things. And so it's not all for naught. But if this is something that resonates with you, don't wait. Don't wait until it's too late to make a choice to live a full life. Do it now at any age. There will still be time. You will have not lost your shine. You will still be able to meet someone down the road when you have gotten every bit of learning that you needed to, when you have figured out what you actually want because you've had a chance to actually explore your life now in the way that you have always wanted to. Don't let anything or anyone tell you you can't, or shame you because you feel like you're too old, or what's a woman like me behaving like this, or how can I look at myself in the mirror if I just want to have fun too? Don't do that. Don't do that. If no one is being hurt, if you're not cheating on anyone, if you're being honest with yourself, if you're being honest with anyone you're involved with, do it. Okay? Because what is the saddest story is the story I just told you with this woman who I know personally, where tragically, she waited to have a say in her life until it was about when she was going to end it. Okay? Because that is just, there's so many opportunities to live now in the moment. Okay? Anyway, I hope that helps. I'm glad you, you got something from that, Janine. I'm glad you're here for that because, yeah. All right. Pawn, are you here? I'm not sure if Pawn is here. She may be in a different time zone. Anyway, you're going to get this. And in the replay, okay? And you're going to see this here. Hi, Andrea. Oh, I'm so glad you're here too. Hi, Jane. She writes, I'm doing online dating, but I've shut down my profiles after 10 days because I already have too many guys. Oh, what a problem to have. Okay. One of them I met 3 times in 1 week. See, and honestly, there are no shortage of men if you just want a guy. Okay. So before you go, and I'm not just speaking upon here, but for any of you, when you feel like, it's slim pickings or you can't find, there's no men. I mean, I don't think any of you have a problem finding men. It's the right kind of men, but don't, delude yourselves that you can't find a man if you want a man. Okay. You can definitely find a guy. If you just want a guy, it's the right kind of guy that's important. Okay, so One of them I met 3 times in 1 week. He wanted to help me fix stuff at my house. I told him that I wasn't comfortable yet to let him come to my house. Good. Don't. You don't want someone coming to your house. Meet at neutral places, okay? You want to know someone really well before you meet at your house. Neutral, safe spaces, and always make sure someone knows where you're going to be, okay? You never know, so just be safe. You don't have to be paranoid. Just be safe. So you don't want someone coming to your house. I went on 2 dates with 2 other guys. They all wanted to go on a 3rd date. Okay, so you got lots of options here, Pon. I can't wait to hear what your problem is. I haven't yet accepted. I've not kissed anyone since I would feel weird. Kissing multiple men. Okay. How many dates would you say I should accept before shutting them down if I could still not kiss them? Okay, so the issue is you feel weird kissing multiple men. Okay. Also, the one who wanted me to help me fix stuff at my house uses a perfume or a cologne I do not like. I'm picky with smells, and I usually don't use any perfume myself. Is there any way to bring up the smell situation? Yes, there is. I'll come to that after I'm done here. I don't think I could kiss someone if the smell is not to my liking. Or on another note, another question is what to say when they tell you they aren't dating, seeing any other girls. They're not a player or a womanizer, they say. I'm not a player either, but I'm seeing and dating more than one man right now. I've not said anything in response to that. Thank you, Pon. Okay, Pon, it's good you're dating multiple men. Not sleeping with them, okay? Not sleeping with them. So kissing them is another thing. So it's good you're not sleeping with them. Good that you're dating more than one man. And the main reason, just to clarify, the main reason you want to date more than one man is because it keeps you from putting all your eggs in one basket. It keeps you from feeling like all of these men, it keeps it when you have a circulation of men, when there is more than one, it keeps you from committing to one guy. It keeps you from feeling like you're just waiting, right? Listening for your text to your phone to go off to tell you got a text, waiting for some guy to call, waiting for some guy to make plans with you. So the whole point of dating more than one guy is so that you don't get caught up in one guy because you don't know him yet. You need to make sure that you are the one calling the shots, that you feel in control, that you feel you're not deferring to someone else, that you're not feeling lesser than, that you're not putting someone on a pedestal. All these things are made easier if there's more than one guy, because you're not just hanging on for that one guy, waiting for the one guy. Make sense? Okay. I think that's self-explanatory, but I wanted to jump in there. Okay, I'm going to go to the easiest ones first, okay? So cologne that you don't like, okay? I get it. I have a thing with scents too. I've always been sensitive. I think a lot of you on here are sensitive to scents. So if there are smells that you don't like, so what I would say is, I'm really sensitive to certain colognes, and I think this might be one of the ones that is a little bit strong for me. Is there, I actually don't. There's very few colognes that aren't too, that I don't have kind of a reaction to. And you can actually say I have like, I've been noticing like I have like an uncomfortable reaction to certain perfumes or colognes, and I think I might have that to something you're wearing. Can we try? I love the fact that you like to smell good for me, but because they are, right? It's kind of like you're validating something, you're giving them something, not just telling them don't wear any cologne. Your smell's actually really bothering me. You're first acknowledging, hey, it's nice that you like to wear cologne for me. It's nice that I like that, but I'm really sensitive to like scents. And anyway, can we try? Would you be offended if we tried not, if you tried not wearing cologne? Or could you try a little less? If you say, could you try less? He may actually not wear any. So I would try to be honest, but still like respect like his ability to choose here what he does. So I would say something probably like, could you wear a little less, and we'll see if that's like easier on my senses, or easier on my sense of smell. I like the idea that you're appealing to him to fix it. This is really important. The more you can appeal to him to fix it, the more manly he's going to feel, the more he's not going to feel emasculate, the more he will feel like you actually aren't just trying to control him, or the more he won't have his back up feeling like he's got to dig in and defend himself, or, just weird stuff that goes on with men like that, right? It's like there's an ego there, and it's just the reality. We're not, it's just they're brought up with that. That's in their culture too. And we might also feel that way if someone, like if you go out of your way to, you put on maybe you like nice perfumes or something. And so same thing, right? Like you wear something for someone and then he tells you he doesn't like it or something. Like, own it. Make it be about you, not about him, not about something bad about him that you don't like about him, but that you're sensitive and your sense of smell really picks up on everything. That's what I would go with. Okay. So that's what I would do. Do that. Okay. And then, so when they tell you they're not, and another question is what to say when they tell you they aren't dating or seeing any other girls, so not a player or a womanizer. Okay. So you're not either, but you're seeing someone else, more than one man too. So I would just say, how I would address that is I would say, I take commitment really seriously, and I like to make sure that, I am, when I make a commitment, I make a full commitment to someone. And so I don't like to commit to someone until I know. I don't like to be exclusive with someone. I don't like to commit to someone until I know for sure, that I'm committing wholeheartedly because we're on the same page and we have enough in common and we're compatible. Okay. Keep it short, maybe a little shorter than that. But essentially what you're saying is, I take commitment really seriously, and I take exclusivity really seriously. And I only want to become exclusive with someone who, we've had enough chance to get to know each other and to know that we're on the same page and we're committed to each other. Okay. Or that we have enough in common. Makes sense. I think you can put it into your own words, but that's essentially, you can say verbatim what I just said, play it back and say that. That's what I would say. And then on this about, how many dates would you say I should accept before shutting them down if I still could not kiss them? So honestly, I mean, a kiss goodnight. I mean, if you just are feeling like, if you're dating multiple men, and so if you've got the 3 guys, okay, and so you're not feeling like you should be kissing any of them, I think you can kiss someone goodnight, and that's okay. Like at the end of the date, I think you can do that. I mean, if you have a problem with that, then I think you probably need to go on enough dates so that you can know that this is not someone, who you want to give more time to get to know. So it's either you give them a kiss goodnight and get over that, and I would, because I would have no problem kissing 3 guys that you're dating goodnight. I mean, it's a goodnight kiss. It is not a full on, make out kiss yet. So I would be fine with that. If you're not fine with that, then I think what you have to do is, just recognize that, maybe the dating 3 guys is just something where, you're going to keep them all at the same level, and you're not going to go further than that. So you just don't kiss them, but get to know them longer. So just go on more dates with them until you know. Don't eliminate anyone. But your goal is to eliminate as quickly as possible the bad ones, the players, the ones you don't want. Your goal is to eliminate those early if that's not what you want. But make sure enough time has passed and you've gotten to know each other enough so that you're not eliminating someone early. But the goal, yes, is to eliminate someone, because you want to eliminate based on, we're not compatible, we don't have enough values. You don't want to eliminate based on, there's not enough spark, there's not enough chemistry. Because again, chemistry and spark is more about, I feel insecure around this person. I don't know if I can get them. I have a lot to lose with them. I can't believe they picked me, right? That's what all of that adrenaline rush, the connection, is what you bring. You bring that connection because you feel so excited that someone is seeing you for the first time, like they're seeing you probably, than you've ever had. So, okay. So I hope all that made sense, Pon. I hope that, yeah, I think I've answered everything you had there. All right. Okay, next one here is from my second Anne. Yes, here we go. Okay. Anne. I am doing well, Anne. Thank you. I hope you're doing well too. And I don't see you on here, so I think you're going to get this on the replay because I think it's late where you are. Okay. How do women who are authentically introverted meet people without turning themselves into pretzels by forcing themselves to become extroverted? No, don't force yourself to become extroverted. Okay. Who's an introvert on here? If you're an introvert, I want you to know you're not alone. So if you're an introvert, feel free to let us know here. Okay. There's a lot of us introverts. And here's the thing with that. Just because you're introverted doesn't mean you can't meet people actually more effectively. Extroverted people meet a lot of people, and they meet a lot of social surface type relation. There's a real difference. Extroverted people might meet more people on the surface. They might meet more contacts. They might have more of a social life, but introverted people actually meet more of the real relationship people because they meet them doing things that are more like real and more significant and more invested in like long-term, like personality based, personal interest based things. So actually, when introverted people meet people, their relationships are usually better and stronger because they're not just on surfacey things. So if you're an introvert, you're going to meet more quality people because you're an introvert generally, because you're going to go to a lot of effort to actually do something that you're interested in enough in to get out doing. Okay, does that make sense? I hope when you listen to the replay, it does make sense because introverts actually have usually just deeper relationships and deeper relationships that are of more substance. And the types of men you meet, you're usually meeting someone who's either your total opposite, and so you meet more of an extrovert, and then that can pose issues because he might be looking for more of a surface thing. But if you're aware of that you may have a tendency to pick someone who's more extroverted to compensate for your more introversion, then that's okay, because it just means it's something you need to be aware of, right? Something you need to know. So it's great because he'll get you out more. And probably, honestly, he's probably choosing you because you are more introverted. So he's looking at you and he's lighting up because he's like, wow, so I can learn something from her. And then you're looking at him and you're like, well, I can learn something from you. And so this, of course, goes on subconsciously, but it's a lot of what's going on behind the scenes. So this is not a problem. This is not a problem. It's the bottom line, because it's just, first of all, not making it a problem. If you have in your mind that being an introvert is a problem, this is going to be difficult for you, because you are going to you're going to carry that with you, and you're going to feel the weight of like, my introversion. I'm introverted, so I'm not going to have as many opportunities to meet people. This isn't natural for me. So I'm going to have issues with this. This is going to be harder for me. If you don't have that, it's going to be a lot better. So first of all, do that. Hang on. So the most important thing that you need to do is to not make this a problem. Okay. And instead look at it as this is actually going to be something that you can get to work for you. Because when you look at where you meet people, look at the things you enjoy doing, look at your interests, and look at the things that are really close to your heart. Like, so if you enjoy more quiet things, and if you enjoy more, so what I'm saying by that is, like, so when you go out, I'm assuming you probably pick like very purposely where you go, right? The things you do, the things that get you out and about and around people are probably going to be very consciously chosen. So look at that as, okay, so if something is going to draw me out to go and do something, then yeah, that's telling me something about myself. And so I am more likely to meet someone who is going to be doing that type of thing too. And then choose those things, pick those things that you do, and pick those things with an eye on, so where's the guy that I'm looking for? What type of things is he doing? Where am I going to find someone like him? And then also, I'd be really curious, like, look at, who are you more attracted to? Are you more attracted to introverts, or are you more attracted to extroverts, or both? And then have a look at that. Like, look at realistically at what attraction that holds for you. Because if you are more of an introvert attracting more extroverts, then look at that as, well, maybe I want to expand a little bit on that. And then maybe you want to meet more people. Maybe you'd like to try that on and just see what it's like to be more extroverted. But I would never, ever change that. I would never ever turn yourself into a pretzel. I would just look at the things that you enjoy doing, and I would simply do those things just for the sake of doing them, not because you feel like you have to or you should. So avoid the shoulds, avoid the have tos. Just see where your introverted self is drawn to. And if there are no men there, okay, then see about expanding a little bit on that to some of those types of things that could include men. Okay. So I don't know what that looks like. Maybe you like your, I don't know. So maybe there's like certain classes that you might like doing, or maybe there's like a more quiet, like a coffee bar type thing, or a restaurant you like to go to, or a place you like to go out when you go out. I don't know. Maybe it's, honestly, grocery stores are still good places to meet men. So maybe there's like a little niche grocery store that maybe has like a little cafe attached to it. Maybe there's something like that you actually, so you might be able to strike up conversations easier. I'm just not seeing the introverted piece as a problem. I think that's the bottom line, because I think there's creative ways to meet men when you're introverted. And actually, once you do meet someone, I think those relationships can actually be more just close to your heart. Like, they can just be more real and authentic, because you hit on it with the real and authentic piece of it. I think you can have relationships that are more real and more authentic and just more meaningful, simply because you're not just the social butterfly. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just, if that's not you, don't try to be that, because social butterflies end up with a lot of numbers and a lot of meeting a lot of people and have no shortage of things to do, which is awesome. But at the same time, they have to sift through more men. There's more of a pool to sift through. So that's the other side of it. So I don't see that as a negative at all. And you got me curious. You actually really have me curious to know what's going on with your situation, because I'm curious to know if you're out meeting more. So let me know. Keep me posted on that. You got me curious on there. All right. Sharon writes, did my husband cheat? Okay, that's it. So Sharon, I'm not a psychic. I read situations. I could probably tell you by your husband's body language and by what he, the way he responded if I asked him that, but I'm not going to ask him that. So I'm going to ask you, did your husband cheat? Did he cheat on you? Do you know? Because I think you're the best measure of whether or not he cheated on you. And I hope he didn't, because it sounds like, that would be really hard to, it doesn't sound like this is something where, it's a mutual thing. So did your husband cheat? Did he cheat? Yeah, ask yourself that. How would you know? And, if you asked him, would he lie to you? If you can't trust that you're with someone, that he wouldn't lie to you about something like that, I mean, that's important. I mean, never mind the very real thing of STDs, and, that's a real thing. You have to know, there's a reason why, when you go for your annual checkups, they ask you, if you're in a monogamous relationship, if you're, if someone's cheating on you, you need to know from a health perspective, never mind the emotional fallout of all that. So, you need to know, did your husband cheat on you? And you can ask him. And if you can't ask him, I'd be concerned with why you can't ask your husband that. If this is just to catch him and you're angry and, you're going to go ballistic on him, that might be why he wouldn't tell you. You have a right to be angry. But I would look at it as, what's most important is finding out the facts. You need to know if you can trust your husband. If you can't trust your husband, that's a real problem. If you, need to know who he cheated on, if there's a concern then from a health point of view, you need to know. So, I would, as calmly as you can, I'm not saying you don't have a right to be angry. I'm not saying you don't have a right to have feelings, but I know that you're going to accomplish much more in terms of getting the information you want, getting the answer you want, if you can actually calmly and matter of factly ask him, can you be honest with me? I need you to be honest with me. Have you cheated on me? And then if he denies it, then I think you should bring up if you're pretty sure. I mean, no one asks this unless they've got reason to. So if you're asking this, you're obviously pretty sure, or at least you have reason to believe. And then I would tell him why, and again, not accusingly. If you want information, and this goes for everything, okay? If you want information, asking in a way that comes across as accusatory is never going to get you your information. You may be angry, you may be justified in that anger, you may have every right to be angry and come across accusingly, but you will never get what you actually desire, which is an answer, and which is an honest answer with information, than if you actually come across in a matter-of-fact, calm, non-accusatory, non-judgmental way. And again, really hard to do. I hear you. I'm not saying you can't do that. But what I am saying is look at what you're trying to get out of it. If you're trying to get an answer, you want to do what you need to do to get an answer. And the best way to do that is to not be accusing someone. Ask someone calmly and practically, logically, in a very calm and direct manner. And then once you have your answer, then you can decide what you want to do with that. But if you want an answer, calm and clear, direct is the way to get your answer. Okay. Yeah. And then let's go to, okay. Starshine. Yes, I have, Star. Star's back. Star, I have time for you. I will wrap up here with Star, and then I'm going to go to the comments, okay? The chat. All right. So, Star has a question, and Star, I'm not sure if you're on here. I think you're on the other side of the world. So I think it is in the middle of the day there, or morning. I think it's morning over where you are. Okay. Mine is about, if you have time, mine is about, oh, hi, Star. What time is it? Oh, you're in LA. I'm sorry, I had you confused with someone else. Okay, you're in LA, so good. You're in the, yeah, you're on my time zone. I know, you're where I am. You're probably not too far from where I used to be. Okay, yeah. Okay, so same gentleman I asked about the first time. I'm just curious to know what a good place is when it comes to going from getting to know someone to establishing a relationship. I'm taking my time, yes, good, as I would like to make sure to choose wisely, but I also, in the back of my mind, wonder if things are progressing too slowly. Okay, so it's good to take your time. How do you know if it's too slow? I've been talking to the three gentlemen. Okay, so you got the three. Good. One for almost a year. Oh, right. Okay, this is all coming back to me now. Bear with me. So this is the three guys. I remember we talked about them. So one for almost a year, one for 6 months, one for 4 months. Okay, you haven't met any of them in person because of the pandemic. Yeah, I got it. We tried, schedules didn't align. Okay, business. Okay, all these other things. You're actually comfortable with this pace as it feels. I feel it allows me to you all to get to know each other. Yes, on an emotional, intellectual level. I really enjoy getting to know the three of them, and I know who I'm interested in the most. Good. So that's more from last time. You know more than you did last time. Okay. So now you know who the one is. They've all been expressive, consistent, and express interest. I guess I wonder if, because I like a man who leads, is there anything I need to say or do to give more of a green light, or is it best to continue to just be myself and sit back? Also, it may be make it easier to decide on who to focus on, but based on successful relationships and marriages, what are the areas of compatibility, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, etc., that need to be strongest in order to sustain a forever type of love? Okay, I'm going to touch on that real quick, and then I'm going to get back to the deeper parts, okay? So, I mean, obviously, in terms of what I've seen with successful marriages and not the ones that last, the relationships that last, The areas that need, okay, what are the areas of compatibility? Okay, so strongest, honestly, the physical is the last thing, but it's important. I don't mean that it's not important. It's just it's the last thing. Honestly, emotional, spiritual, and intellectual. Wow. I would say, I'm going to say emotional is going to be the most important. Physical, the least. Intellectual, the second least. Although intellectual is so important because you have to have that intellectual stimulation. I mean, what I hear time and time again from women is they're really most attracted to someone who they have an intellectual connection with. So that is really important. But they also say they need to have a physical connection. And in terms of what lasts, so we're talking about beginning things that are like really important areas of compatibility. So in the beginning, you're going to say that physical, these women that say, and typically, I mean, so the most important are going to be physical, followed by intellectual, followed by probably emotional and spiritual. But then down the road, the things that are the most important actually reverse. And that emotional and spiritual become like the most important things than the intellect, because you have to be growing together, right? You're not going to stay stagnant. You're going to grow. So you got to make sure you can grow together. And then the intellectual is still really important. And again, that can almost go hand in hand with the emotional because and the spiritual, because the intellectual is really important, but it is slightly less than emotional and spiritual in the long run. Okay. And then the strongest in order. Okay. And then physical is probably the least, but it still needs to be there. It still needs to be there. It's still important. Okay. So I would look at that as, yeah, so that answers that question. And then going back to, is there anything that you need to say or do to give more of a green light, or is it best to just continue to be myself? Okay. So I would, you've decided then on who you like the best. Okay. You've been enjoying getting to know the three of them. But you know who you're interested in the most. Until you meet someone in person, I would not rule these out. I had the same scenario. I think I've talked about this before, but I had the same scenario with one of my coaching clients, one of my first ones, who met someone, my early ones who met someone, and she, okay, it's all coming back to me now. It's getting late. Can you? I can't believe how fast time goes by. Like I've been on here for 2 hours and 20 minutes, and yeah, time just flies by. So anyway, bear with me if I'm a little bit all over the place because so what she was in the same scenario where there were three men and she hadn't met them yet. And so here's my concern is that she had already decided who she was pretty sure was going to be the one she liked the most and who was the one who was the least. And what was really interesting is I had a gut feeling because I'd been working with her for almost a year, and I had a gut feeling that who she was the least likely, like the one she almost canceled, was the one that I had a feeling about based on everything I knew about her and everything that she told me about them. And so until she met them, I didn't want her to eliminate. I mean, there was one that we were pretty sure we were going to eliminate, and she did end up eliminating him because usually we can tell more of who we're going to eliminate. But in terms of the one that she was going to pick, it turned out to be, she thought it was going to be the other guy. She was almost positive it was going to be the other guy. And it was the one that she almost didn't meet. Okay. So I do not think that you should make a final decision by any means until you've met in person. And I know things are just opening up more there, and who knows how long we're going to go around and around and around. Yeah, I know, it was interesting, right? So I think it's really important that you hold off because, and not because of looks, not because of looks at all, not because of looks. It was the behavior they showed in person that was really important. Okay. So I think it's really important that you wait until then. But what I would do is if there is someone that you're really curious about, I would tell them, you know, I am super curious about you. And I would do it in a playful way, right? Like, you know, I am so curious about you because in my mind, I, you know, or just, I have this idea from what I've gotten to know about you, but I am really curious to see if that would play out in real life when I meet you. So anyway, you better hurry up and, get your butt down here because I am looking forward to meeting you. Right? Or something like that. And definitely make sure they come to you. Not stay with you. There's a woman I just talked to yesterday, and we were talking about this because she thought that he was gonna. He's from somewhere. She's in Australia, and he's somewhere in Europe, and he was gonna come and visit, and he was gonna stay with her, because they knew each other from before. But I was like, no, 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 get him. Make sure that he stays somewhere else. Good. Okay. I figured, but I never know. I never know what you assume or what. Yeah. I never want to assume because I assume he's not, but that's good. Good, good, good. No, should not be staying with you. Neutral places. And, yeah, because that's what we had a whole conversation about. Nothing gives someone the green light to stay with you, even if you've known them from before. In the past, people change. And so it can get awkward and it can get really awkward. It can get real. And it just, you don't want to do that. So don't do that. Okay. And you know that. So yeah, I would just be more playful banter, just kind of come right out and just say, yeah, I'm getting curious, or, we're going to be old, we're going to be old by the time that we meet each other, we're going to be, or, anyway, you might be gray by the time we meet, I don't know, just get it, like something playful like that. That's what I would do. Okay. And, let's see here. Next one. I know. Star, you make me laugh. Especially when I save you for the last time of the night when I'm getting tired on here. Okay. And I think I have covered my planned one. You're so welcome. And I'll remember now where you're from. Okay. I think I've covered that. Oh, one last one on here. I didn't get to her. Karen. The man I've currently been with for over a year is in France, and I'm in England. We met by complete accident on a game that no one introduced us. We met by accident. We became good friends, and then I let my guard down as I was single, not looking, and enjoyed just being that. Alone, but he won me over and I fell head over heels with a long distance relationship and a very introverted man. He has mommy abandonment issues because he was a child of physical abuse. And this is so tragic, but there are a lot of men who have been so sadly abused. And unfortunately, this shows up in how they are in a relationship with you. And it is really hard. He blows hot and cold all the time on me. Sometimes I don't hear anything for days or up to 3 weeks. And just a note about that, they really need professional help. You can't be this person who nurses them back to health. You can't be emotional health. Like, you can't be this person who's saving him. I meet so many women on here. I can't even tell you, the caregivers, right? Like when I meet you for the first time on a coaching call and you're like, you are literally the caregivers in our society. I mean, you're the nurses and you're the social workers and you're the massage therapists and you're the physiotherapists and you're the doctors and you're the psychologists, the therapists, the counselors, and it is just like you what you do for a living in your careers, you're trying to do with these men, and these men need someone, not you, to fix all this. You can fix these people in your career professionally who you're not attached to, but if you're attached to someone, everything gets clouded quick, and you can't fix them. You can't do this for them. They need someone who can do it for them, who's a professional for them, not you. Okay. It just, everything gets cloudy and it's really hard when you do that. So, all right. He blows hot and cold. He's like this. Sometimes I don't hear anything for days or up to 3 weeks. He's not like this he's like this with everyone around him, just not just me. Okay. So this is a pattern. He's like this with everyone. Nothing in me wants to give up on him. And I don't want to be like all the others in the past who just left him. Okay, so others would leave him. And that's been his MO. So he's probably expecting that eventually he will wear out his welcome with you and you'll give up on him too. Okay, so he's expecting that. So that makes sense. So he's not going to be giving you that much, or he's going to be guarded, because this has been his pattern. Every other woman has given up on him. Now, I'm not saying they haven't given up on him for good reason. I mean, maybe you should be like the others who have given up on him, but you don't want to just leave him. You want to fix this. So let's give you something where you can just work on something here. Okay. And let's give you something where you can fix him without fixing. Let's give you a perspective so that you're able to figure out what you want to do without fixing him. Okay. I don't want to be with anyone else. I swear to you that if it fails with him, I am done. I will go back to being happy, being single and alone, just like before I met him. I don't bug him for him to change, etc. That as far as I'm concerned is his personal journey, not mine. Okay, good. So you got the boundaries in here. That's good. I feel very strongly that there's something wrong with anyone who tries to control someone in a relationship to change when you knew about the issues in the first place before you got committed. I agree. And that's really commendable that you recognize that you need to look at what you've got and not try to change someone. Yes. But I don't know what to do with this anymore as we have hit a wall. And all I've done is back off of him and give him space, even if it's uncomfortable. Any advice? Okay. So here's my advice to you, Karen. First of all, yeah, I want to acknowledge that's really good. You recognize you have to accept him for who he is as he is. And actually, that is the biggest part of my advice. You have to accept this is a guy with, as you say, mommy abandonment issues. Okay. He blows hot and cold. You may not hear anything for up to 3 weeks. This is what you've got. Okay. When you say if it fails with him, define fails with him. Okay. What does that look like to you? So that you're aware of what that is, what does it mean if it fails with him? Because if the two, this is my point here, if the two of you accept each other for who you are, if you accept the fact that this guy has been abused and I'm not using this as an excuse, I'm just saying a matter of fact, the brain changes when there is abuse. Okay. The brain changes. Okay. The neural synapse, all that stuff that goes on, it changes. When there has been trauma and abuse, the brain develops in different ways. And what gets strengthened and what gets weakened happens because of that. So certain parts light up and certain parts don't. This applies to you as well when you have had trauma or abuse, okay? And we could have a whole session on that, but that's in there too. So that's something that's part of this. So when we talk about what it would mean to fail here, I mean, if the two of you can accept each other for who you are. And if he does not have, so if he's not, if you're honest with him, like the two of you need to be really clear and honest, because honesty is going to be the best thing here. If you can tell him and communicate directly what you can accept and what you can't accept, and you can lay it all out like that, you're going to be so much better off because everything's out in the open. And this goes back to, I think, Melissa, the dog trainer, right? This is the same thing. And you can go back. If you haven't heard what I was talking about with her, go back and listen to that, because there was a lot of really good stuff, relevant stuff on there too. But you have to accept him. If you're done, this will be because you have realized you cannot accept everything about him, who he is here. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, because even you have recognized, you know who he is, you know what to expect. That is the most important thing, and that matters. Okay. So you're not done unless you choose to be done. So take the power back there, that this guy can't make you be done. Okay. You will still choose whether or not you're done or not. Okay. That is your power. That is your ability to choose that. So the question is, what does he add to you? You say you can go back and be single and alone, just like before you met him. Okay. And you can do that, but there's obviously something in here for him with him for you. And so don't discount that either, but I would have an honest conversation. First of all, I would get clear on what you can accept of his behavior. Okay. And what I would do is have a direct conversation with him where you talk to him like the little boy. I mean, I hate to say it, but this is the reality. Where someone's growth, where someone is emotionally, is where their growth was stunted because of some trauma, because of some abuse. So you do normally have to talk to these extra sensitive men as little boys, not condescending whatsoever, but in a way that simply says, I accept the fact that you need a certain amount of space. I accept the fact that you get comfortable. You've told me about the abuse that you have gone through, and I am so sorry, obviously, that you've ever gone through that. I understand how it has affected you, and I understand that you sometimes need your space. But at the same time, I have accepted that, but there is something that I do need from you, and I need to know if you can communicate with me when you are feeling that way, when you need space. I feel really hurt or left out, or I feel rejected. And so I need to know from you a little advance warning before you go there, if you can give that to me, because it scares me that I'm losing you when you do that. And it scares me that you're going to go and I'm not going to know when you're going to come back. And I have accepted that you need your space, but can you communicate that with me? Because I would really, I can be with you if you can give me that, if you can do that for me. I think that I can be with you. I can overlook some of these things, but this is something I can't overlook. It's have a direct conversation with him, because honestly, that hurts us more often than it doesn't. And when I look back and when I talk to women now, I mean, it's literally like we tiptoe around all these things, and it's the direct communication. It's a direct request. It's direct. It's just being direct with someone, knowing everyone is going to have less anxiety when everyone knows where they stand. Everyone is going to feel better when the elephant in the room is exposed and everyone can talk about the elephant in the room. Everything is just better that way. And so if you're hung up on this whole thing that you have to be a certain way, it's harder on you, and it's harder on the relationship, and it keeps the relationship from happening. So, you really need to know what is possible here. And if you come to what you will accept and you are clear on what needs to change, or what you need to, what is your ask of him, right? Like, what do when you're clear, I accept these things. However, these are the things that will make this, make me be able to accept him. I need these little tweaks. You have to communicate that, find out, is that possible? Because if it's not possible, you need to know that too. Okay. But you have to know that. And you can't know that by reading minds. He can't read your mind. You can't read his. You have to have a direct conversation where you communicate that. Okay. And again, talking to him, not judgmentally, not calling him out, not accusatory, just matter of fact. You need to know, can you do this? And don't wait until you're resentful. If you wait until this is built, I talk to women about this all the time on our calls. If you wait until you're resentful, everything's just going to go bad. Everything will go south, because the problem is, at that point, just, you can't hide your resentment. You can't hide it. It's going to come through. It's not going to be good. Okay. So don't hide that. Just simply communicate with him in a way early on that's direct and clear, so that the two of you have the best opportunity to work things through and to come to some kind of a middle ground on what he is capable of, so he doesn't have to run away maybe so often. Maybe maybe you can ask him, can you let me know, like, can there be like a, so like, what can be like our word that communicates this is getting to be too much? Can you communicate with a word that tells me that? So that way, if he's not able to explain in detail, I can still explain it in some way. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad you asked that. All right. So that's the end of my questions that I have time on there for. So, I'm going to go here to the chat. And hello, everyone, again from everywhere. I don't think I missed anyone on that. So, okay. So, okay, so Gina had said, I kind of want another real relationship with genuine trust. And then again, I wondered if it was just about the excitement. Okay, so it sounds like you understand about trust. If don't look at it so much as, I can't trust anyone, I need to be able to, I've got trust issues. Look at it as, I'm choosing men who, of course I have trust issues with, because they are not trustworthy men who are giving me reason to trust them. Okay, so I think maybe that makes sense. And for you to recognize if it's about excitement or not. Okay, so sounds like you're becoming a little more clear on that. Good. Okay, so, okay, and then Lee says, how do you get a man to see you as someone to date, not just a booty call? I had this on my last one. If you go back to my last live, I specifically talked to someone about that. and it was early on. So I think you can just back up, and it was in the beginning. So it was my last one. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. It would have been, so it was the second one in March that I did. So go back to that one. And I think it was in the beginning. It might have even been the first one. But anyway, it was specifically on how to get a man to see you as someone to date, not just a booty call. The number one theme of that, though, of my answer was that you have to believe that you are worth more than just a booty call, because you will communicate that in so many subtle ways that communicate that directly in like it will come across based on whether or not you believe you are worth so much more than a booty call. And it will also be that you don't give yourself away that early. Like I know that sounds like whatever cliche or whatever, give yourself away and stuff, but we do, something happens to us after we've been intimate with someone, after you've had sex with someone. A guy becomes less emotionally attached to you, and you become more. Women become more. We're wired that way. There are very few women who don't have that. Okay. And there are also exceptions. I hate to, be so gender specific on a lot of these things, but there are just things that have become that way because we've been so culturally gender driven, where men have been treated a certain way, women have been treated a certain way, men have been programmed a certain way. Because of that, women have been programmed a certain way. So generally speaking, if you are communicating that you're okay with getting intimate early, before you know they're as emotionally committed to you as you want them to be, as you are to them, you're setting yourself up to be a booty call if you're getting involved with them intimately too early, because they're going to become, they're going to see it as you've given them permission. Okay. But I go into a lot of detail on that on the last one. So, but that's, I think, the gist. You can get it. Okay. Gina says, when a guy says that it's not you, it's me. Oh, so when a guy does the it's not you, it's me thing, isn't it time to cut your losses? Yeah. When he's saying it's not you, it's me, and he's actually communicating that, there's not much more you can do with that, because he's, and even more, like, so you don't even have to believe him, but what you need to get out of that, and what the point is of that, is he's trying to get out of this. So it doesn't matter whether or not you believe him that it's just him and not you. It's the point that's being made. He wants out. And if he wants out, and he's coming up with like the oldest cliche in the book, that it's not you, it's me, he wants out. Let him out, and don't, cut your losses. Don't try and backtrack and stay in there. Okay. And then, okay. And then I think you were talking about more along those lines in response to what I was answering. Okay. Thank you for that feedback, giving that advice to the person I was talking to. So basically concurring. Yeah. Cinderella. We don't want to be Cinderella. Cinderella is like the loneliest. And let me tell you, Cinderella at the end looked back and was, Cinderella, whole other story. I'll rewrite that one day, because Cinderella's story got me so hung up on, all that stuff. So, okay. And then Gwen said, I have had a really hard time moving forward after the guys I was engaged to broke things off. It's been 1.5 years. I've tried dating, and that has been challenging. Gwen, that is really difficult. He broke it off with you. And dating is going to be challenging when you go out feeling like there's something wrong with you. And when you go out feeling like, you can't help but feel rejected when someone rejects you, when someone breaks things off with you, especially when you've been engaged. First of all, don't put a time frame on when you're supposed to be feeling better. And that's with any relationship. Don't put a time frame on when it's supposed to get better. Okay, it gets better when it gets better. There is no gauge of that. It depends on the intensity, what you felt, how much, support resources, and how much everything is back to normal, on the other side of getting back, trying to get back to normal. So it's been really challenging. My heart goes out to you, because it is really hard to move on when you're feeling down and when you're feeling bad about yourself. So what I want to say on that is, as personal as it feels, I got to tell you, if some guy was breaking it off with you, it's because it couldn't go on. And I have a feeling that there were things that you probably didn't want to see. Um, and I know that might be hard to hear, and I'm sorry if that's hard to hear. But at the same time, I don't know of any woman who's had a guy end things with her, where he ended something, and she hasn't come back to see that it was actually the best thing that happened, and for her to understand why it happened. And so if you're looking at this as I missed out on my chance and I missed out on the best thing that could have happened to me and I missed out on everything. And if only I had done this and if only I had done that, everything would be different. That's just not the right narrative. I mean, that is what we're taught to do. We indirectly, we go back and we look at what we did and we beat ourselves up and we think of, well, if only, this would not have been the relationship. This would not have been the marriage that you thought it would have been. I mean, there's just no way. Someone does not break it off for no reason. And they don't break it off just because, you're some horrible person that will never be with someone again. I mean, that just does not happen. Someone breaks it off almost always because there was a reason to break it off that you couldn't see, and you weren't going to be the one to break it off. And if you didn't break it off, or if he didn't, you were never going to. So honestly, this guy did you a favor. And I know it's so hard to see that. And I have a hard time even saying it because I know how painful it is and how real it was to you, that it was really something good. But I also know on the other side of that, and it's way more than a year and a half on the other side of it when you can see it. So don't beat yourself up that you should be able to see it by now. But way on the other side of being able to see it, usually you see it. I mean, always. I really cannot think of a time when you don't see that there was obviously something that if you weren't aware of it, he was. And if you're in denial and he wasn't, you needed him to see it. It's heartbreaking to go through it. But at some point, yeah. And dating, I mean, I go back to, it's a real thing. Dating afterwards is always challenging. I mean, I can tell you the time I broke up with a guy who drove a Corvette and 3 guys after him all drove Corvettes. I mean, there's a real thing in here where, you date the guy that you're trying to get over. You keep trying to find the same guy and it usually gets messed up. And yeah, so I mean, it's a real thing that dating is challenging, so challenging. I know people who've gone on 3-4 years and they still have a hard time meeting someone after that. They're holding on to the fantasy. And so it's not just him. And I think I want to say that to you, Gwen. It's not just the guy that, it's not just the guy that broke up with you. It's not just the guy that ended this. It's the idea, it's the plans, it's the fantasy, and not just a fantasy. It probably felt very real. You guys had plans, you had dreams. You obviously talked about these things. You were getting married, right? So, you obviously had a close enough relationship. You talked about life together. You talked about the things you were going to do, the places you were going to go, the things you were going to accomplish together, the plans you had for each other. I mean, there's so much in there. That's going to take more than what anyone says is a correct timeline to get over. That's the death of a dream, the death of there's a lot in there. So go easy on yourself and recognize a lot happened, and that was really hard, and that was really painful. So you're not just getting over a guy, you're getting over a dream. You're letting go of plans that you had. You're letting go of a life that you had planned together. You're letting go of whatever that looked like to you. And so that is not an easy thing to do. So don't beat yourself up about why it's taking so long, but recognize in order to get over this, date for friendship. Date some guys who are totally different from this guy, and date all different kinds of guys. Like, just throw it out there, but look at dating as meeting friends, meeting nice people. Can you meet some nice people and see what that looks like for a change instead of just the usual who you're used to meeting? Can you meet some different people with the qualities that you're looking for? Kindness, compassion, compatibility, and are there any things that you want to do to help yourself feel better? Are there any causes? I know some people who've volunteered with dogs and volunteered with things like that, causes that matter to them. I know so many people who've met through like activism of causes that are close to their hearts, and they meet kind people in depending on the cause, of course. Um, violent activism is a whole other thing, but you meet someone, at least you got passion there, but you meet someone, in the things that they're passionate about, where they are activists to try to change something, and whether or not they're, what that looks like, try that. Try looking at things where you will meet people who you have things in common with, who are friends first, like friends. For your goal should be like friendship first, because with all the hurting you've been through, you probably need someone, who can meet you there as just on the friendship level and let that grow. That's much better. I always would recommend you meet as friends rather than the other. Okay, coming with this extreme, intense, relationships that don't go anywhere, or that just, that are all this intensity and have nothing more, no substance beyond that. So I would look at that. From there, yeah. And then, if any of you are interested in coaching, where we can talk one-on-one, I offer email coaching. I realize I never mentioned this, and I think I get so caught up in talking with you guys, and I feel like you're like right here. But yeah, I will, mention I do coach, and I offer email coaching. I offer one-on-one coaching as well. And I have group coaching too. So I offer all of that. I'm going to be offering more and expanding some of my programs. The program that also, I have two programs that are self-study programs: the Beautiful, Confident, Radiant You program, which I have had countless women tell me about how they've met, their husbands on their partners. That really is about looking at you and discovering the you that leads to two. My website is Getting to True Love, and the, when I had to pick the sub title or whatever, the tagline, it was, without a doubt, it was finding your you that leads to two, because that is how I changed my life around that way, with finding, the person that finding who I was, discovering who I was. I was a lot of fluff before that. I was bait and switch a lot. I never wanted to admit what I wanted because I was so afraid of being needy. I was so afraid of coming across as being needy and being clingy and being insecure. I came across as the cool girl. I was fluff. I had the look. I had all of this stuff going on the outside. And, I basically came across like I didn't need a guy. I was independent. I was on my own. Well, yeah, I was like that when I was not in a relationship. But as soon as I was in a relationship, I was actually really insecure, and I was really dependent, and I really wanted this to work. And so it was like the opposite. They thought they were signing up for this independent woman because that is what I had made sure to come across as to get the guy. But then underneath, there was the real me, and the real me that I was only discovering. And this is my program. Who are you underneath? Because that's the you, honestly, that is going to meet someone who is going to be compatible with you. Because all of the men that you're going to meet with this, what you've been told, I can't be clingy, I can't be needy, I got to be independent, I got to be all this. And you're going to meet them, and you're going to get them for only a certain amount of time, if that is how you're coming across and that doesn't match what's inside you. And if underneath you are as insecure or sensitive, or, as you want to call it, needy or clingy or whatever else, this is where I say, welcome to you, because that if that's you, pretending you're not that, acting like you're not, is not going to do it. Because you need someone who's going to fall in love with the real you. And when you show up, and I see you on my calls, and that my program, this program I'm talking about, Beautiful, Radiant, Confident You, that comes, the full program, the full 4-week program comes with a free coaching session at the end where I get to meet you. And I'll tell you, I get so excited to meet you on there, because when I meet you, like I give you a glimpse into honestly what someone is going to feel like who's actually meant for you. Because if you're here and if you're doing one of my programs, and if what I'm saying is resonating with you and you're hanging on and hanging out here to the end, I mean, honestly, you are going to be my person. Like, we're going to be friends. and you're going to remind me so much of myself, and we are going to get along. Like, we could go out and we could just, you know, do whatever. We can just hang out, and you're going to be fine being every bit of you. And I hope in that snapshot to show you what it is going to be like to be with someone who loves you, who accepts you, who is your person, your type of people. Because someone who gets to that far with you, someone who gets to that point with you, where they've gotten to know you and you revealed who they are, who you are to them, and they're doing the same with you. But like, that person is going to meet you. They're going to be so excited to meet you because they know who you are. You've shown them who you are. And everything that you think is like the worst part of you and you're beating yourself up about, and you think, oh, I can't ever show anyone this side of me. Well, that's the exact side of you that someone is going to fall in love with you for. Okay? And honestly, that's why finding your you that leads to two, that is the only way you meet your person who is meant for you. And he's going to be as excited to see you as I am, as I show up in that call, because I get super excited when I meet you there. And honestly, I mean, this is from someone who did everything to hide that. Okay. Everything to hide. And I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I would say I'm not. I would say I'm real. I would say this is who I am. I would say, of course, I'm this confident person. I'm this independent person. But what I didn't realize is I wasn't that in a relationship, because something about being in a relationship, all of a sudden, all the programming came in, and I'm supposed to be this, and I'm supposed to be that, and I'm supposed to be this. And I wasn't even aware of that programming. I didn't even call it programming until I was in the relationship. And I didn't even call it that then. I just thought, when I'm in a relationship, I got to win this guy over. When I'm in a relationship, I have to make everything better. When I'm in a relationship, I have to be everything he's ever wanted, so that he is never going to be with another woman like he is with me. And so that he never, ever wants to be with someone else. I have to be the woman who's everything to him. And that's it. And if ever this guy, and actually, I hope I didn't miss one of your emails, because if you wrote to me about him being with some other woman, I don't know if I answered that one or not. I just realized that. But anyway, if I missed that one, all I want to say about that is I have a meme that is that I love, and it's she'll never be you. If he wants to find, basically, it's if he wants to find someone, let him, because she'll never be you. And there is so much power in that. When I post that one, because I try and post it every once in a while just to give you that reminder. And when I post that one, I mean that so strongly. And I hope you can feel the feeling behind that, because what I am saying to you is something that I had to learn, because I have been picked over for some other girl so many times. And I always looked at that as, she was never what I would have considered as pretty as me. She was never what I would have considered as intelligent or as educated or as independent as me, or whatever I think I am or I was at the time. I always was just devastated, because he would pick someone out of the blue who could not compare to me in my own mind, in what I thought. And I would have others. I would have friends say, Jane, she's not you. Like, oh, she can't hold a candle to you. But I would beat myself up thinking, what is so wrong with me that he has picked her? And you know what it was? You know why he picked her? Every time I can tell you, from the very first time, and I have told these stories to those of you who have talked to on my calls about this, who are going through the same thing. But I can tell you what it was. They were so much more comfortable in their own skin than I ever was. Ever. And these women were more, they were plainer. They weren't as done up. They were more natural. They didn't need to put on a show. They didn't need to try so hard. They didn't need to be all dressed up. Like I used to be so dressed up, and I had to have my hair perfect and my makeup perfect. And I had to be so perfect. And I had to everything had to be so perfect. And it was because I felt like I had to just always try so hard to prove that. And these women that these guys inevitably ended up with, and they would marry these women, and I would see everyone else getting their turn besides me. And these women, they were nothing special, but you know what they were? They were real, and they were comfortable in their own skin. And I never understood that until it happened enough times, and I started looking at it more deeply, and I started seeing a pattern, and I started examining all that. And what I put together in that program is essentially it. It is beautiful, confident, radiant you, because that's what you are, because it stops and starts with you. Everything starts with you. And you are the one who determines whether or not you have someone meeting you and looking at everything that you are, and having those things that you have been hiding being the things that they absolutely adore about you. So I don't want you to forget that. So that's all there on my website. You can check that out. Yeah, because this is what I see happening in the women who go on and meet someone and get married, and they're just like, whoa, like this person loves me for me. Like I have never been loved like this, and I get that, because I mean, that's how I feel. My husband and I have been married 19 years, believe it or not. And literally, there are things about him that drive me nuts. There are things about me that drive him so much worse nuts. And they drive him crazy. And he will look at me, and he will sometimes just like, what is it like to be you? And he will just say it in the most loving, caring, kindest way. I am used to someone looking at me before I met him and be like, just feeling like just that they could not stand certain parts of me, or just feeling like such a fraud, or feeling like, and so to have my husband like something that is just that makes me that I would have tried to cover up, and to have him say in that endearing, loving way, what's it like in there in your world? It's like he's talking about my insecurities. He's talking about like my anxieties. He's talking about, the things that feel so heavy to me is what he's talking about. And this is a guy who accepts me for who I am, believe it or not. And it's just shocking that, we meet people who accept those things that we try and hide. Because if you're not trying to hide them, when you have figured out a way to validate themselves, and that's what I do in the program, that's what I do by being here with you. I want to validate all those things that you are beating yourself up about yourself. I have yet to find someone who legitimately has something wrong with them, and that it's not just the case that they are with the wrong people. I have yet to find that. You come to me and you try and tell me what is so wrong with you. It's like, this is what's wrong with me, Jane. This is it. And I'm looking at that like, no, that's not what's wrong with you. That is what you have been told is so wrong with you. That's the narrative you've been given, the story you've been given. That's not so wrong with you. It's just because you were told that, you went looking for people subconsciously. You didn't even know you were doing this to validate, to confirm that this was so wrong with you. But that's not what's so wrong with you. It's just you've been choosing people, again, subconsciously. You're probably not even aware of it, but you're choosing like all the worst people to confirm that there is all this wrong with you. And so by confirming it, it's being reinforced for you. You're concluding all this is wrong with me. And as a result, you keep repeating the same pattern over and over again, because you can't get off of the fact that there is something wrong with you. You're the common denominator, not that there is something wrong with just who you're choosing. And just a simple recognition that, hey, I'm choosing this, instead of, oh, I'm the victim because it'll never happen to me. It's not in the cards. This is my destiny. My punishment, whatever else you're calling it. Instead of that, if you can look at it as, wait. It's a choice. I'm picking a guy who is so hard to get because I want to prove that I can get him, because I get a dopamine kick out of that. I get a dopamine hit. I get a rush out of that. Something in me lights up because of what I have suffered in my life. The early trauma, the early abuse, whatever I have gone through makes the certain type of guy light up for me. So that is why I feel like I have to keep going after that guy, because it gives me that hit. And it is an addiction, and it is equivalent to an actual addiction that people go and get treated for. So this is the same type of thing, except that the reality is all of this starts to change when you recognize it is a choice. You get to choose. You can either keep choosing these men who keep reinforcing it, keep reinforcing the problem is you, okay? Or you, because it lets them off the hook. I mean, there's a dynamic here. So this dynamic works for them too. Or you can leave all that behind and you can start accepting and loving yourself in a way that's real, not just the cliche stuff, but in a way where you actually go explore. Like go back and listen to some of what I was saying about the woman who lived half a life, okay? And the first choice she ever made was on her deathbed. Go back in and listen to that. And then recognize that that is all you need to do is recognize that early and start doing that. Start recognizing who you are. Start confirming all of these parts of you that are free and that make you you, not these parts of you you're confirming that you loathe and you hate and you've been told one way. Go explore who you actually are, the whole life, not the half life lived. And then pick people, go choose different people. Recognize you've been choosing all the wrong types. And then go choose the types who will actually reinforce in you that everything is fine and beautiful and incredible and loving and unique and special and all the other things about you that you need to hear. And go find the people who reinforce that legitimately, authentically, not because someone just tells you what you want to hear, but because you actually go live a life that proves that lives that side of you out loud. So that if you have these things and you have these qualities, you're not trying to hide them. You're living a life that reflects those, so that who you're choosing to be around and what you're choosing to do and the validation and the confirmation you get back, it's based on you choosing things and people and places that represent you. Okay. I've done enough preaching on that. So I'm gonna sign off here. I've loved having you guys here. Thanks for staying on with me. Go back and listen to any of these that you need to if they reflect a similar situation. We need to flood ourselves with as much real, authentic confirmation of who we are and what we know, because what we're up against is a lot of stories that are really ingrained, that have changed so much of the structure of our brains, of the way everything, the neurotransmitters, the neuron synapses function, the way that everything happens. There's a lot of learned cellular level learning that has gone on, that has determined for you who you are, all you're ever going to be able to expect, and all of the scenarios that you play out in your mind that are your worst case scenarios of everything that's going to happen. All of that has been absorbed at the cellular level deep into your being. Okay? And to change that, you've got to find places to reinforce all those other sides of you that you haven't allowed anyone to see. Okay? It's time to stop being afraid of all of those things to come out and to recognize that you don't need to have all these stories anymore. You don't need to go with what someone has told you about yourself. You can actually step into your own light and you can actually recognize who you are, where you've been, what you've been through. Okay? Yeah, you recognize that, you acknowledge that, but you can recognize you're going somewhere different now. And it starts with you. Okay? So here's to you. Here's to a new, fresh start. I don't care if it's not the beginning of the year or New Year's or whatever you need an excuse for. It can start right now with you just simply recognizing and acknowledging that everything that you have ever been told about love, about relationships, about men, about how to keep a man, how to get a man, how to behave with a man, everything that you have been taught that you are supposed to do in order to prove that you're lovable is flat out wrong. And you can start now discovering through new, fresh eyes for the first time how you go about accepting who you are and finding your you that leads to two. All right. Wherever in the world you are, I wish you a beautiful night. I send you so much love. Thank you for being here. I've loved being a part of this with you. And if I can help at all, send me an email, reach out to me through social media. I'm here for you, and I adore you just the way you are. And if you're here and what I'm saying is resonating with you, yeah, you can know I absolutely mean it. And I see you and I get you. And the way that I accept you and have so much love for you, someone else is going to fall in love with these sides of you too that you feel have been so unlovable for so long. It's not you, girl. It is the people that you have been choosing. It is the men you've been choosing and who you've been choosing to hang around. Okay, I'm going to go. You take care. I'll see you next time. All right. Take care and have a good night or good morning wherever you are. And if you're on the replay, I'm glad you showed up on the replay. I hope you got your questions answered there. And feel free to go back in and go back to the parts too where I answered your question if you weren't able to make it or if you're sound asleep somewhere. Okay. Good night, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.